the data collection for credit investigation. Last week we discussed two factors, that is interviewing techniques and basically uh, what is data collection, what type of data we have to collect, how to collect the data, what are the information what we needed for a credit decision. So we discussed last week, depending on the size of the business, size of the loan proposal, our analysis, collection of information and analysis going in depth, depending on the amount and the customer's background. And also certain types of credit facilities needed external factors very much than internal factors. So we discussed last week that position. Then we discussed about how to conduct an interview, successfully interview. So basic features we discussed. What is the inspection? How to get prepared before the inspection? Sorry, interview. Before the interview, how to get prepared, and the interview, how we are going to conduct the interview, what type of question we are going to ask, how to prepare a list of questions you want to ask from the customer or verify. So we discuss very important factors. Customer is making an application for a credit facility. First, we go through the credit application when it is completed. Very important. I mentioned that it is important to see all. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
You can see, all the background and customer information about the loan application. All the question has to be completed. Should not keep anything blank. Right? Sometimes, most of the instances, what we find, applications are not updated. So I told very important factor is incomplete application don't accept. Incomplete application we should not accept it. You buy the customer and ask the customer to complete and bring it. Sometimes some customers have obtained facilities previously. So they specifically these customers are in applying for a second loan or a third loan, they're just giving some incomplete application, only the signature and the name. In between nothing. So if you ask the customer, he may say that go through the all reports, you can write. But what we have to understand is there's a time lag. During this period, there can be changes. There can be changes taken place. So that's why we are asking the fresh application to be filled and the latest information we have to collect. Then again, I told something very important about the customer. Mostly, they are not giving the asset positions. For the asset position, we need for two reasons. One is to select ideal collateral for that application, that facility. Secondly, in the case of a default, we should know what are the customers' assets available for us to go for a recovery. So this information is very important. We cannot find the customers' asset position when case of defaulted and when we file action and finally we go for a writ order. We should have in hand what are the customers' assets available and keeping that one. And also we need collateral. And second part is the liability part. Most of the customers, they are not giving external liabilities. The guarantees granted and other borrowing from other banks. Those informations are vital to see customers' ability to repay. All these things put together when the customer has a sufficient repayment ability. Okay, for that, golden is even credit guarantee, if the customer guaranteed the facility, we consider that if that the particular borrower default, we have to sue this customer. Therefore, that was a part of his indirect advances, part of his indirect liabilities. Direct liabilities, indirect liabilities. So we are taking the account. Most of the customers are not giving this information. Therefore, we have to go to external sources. Luckily, now we have crib. On the crib, you can find customers' background. Okay, information in the crib. We discussed last week. What are the information available in the crib? What type of information you can access to the crib? And about the back, his past borrowings and performance of the current account and the customer whether can be considered for facility. After going through this thing, application, and we said we need to have a interview. The interview questions we said formulate the questions we have to prepare. Where are the gray areas in the application? Certain operations of the current account. From that, you have to structure your pre-arrangement for interview. I told most of the instances we find that customers are uh, just coming in and asking for facilities. We are not prepared. Customers are not prepared. For large facilities, considerable large facilities, we should get time factor. Ask the customer, wait, prepare, and come. So we prepare for the interview. Then the customer knows that we are on the business. Okay, right. Now today, after the interview, customer interview, now we have to verify certain factors, certain information given by the customer, certain factors given by the customer has to be verified. So that is where the inspections and site visits are coming forward. So we have to conduct an inspection or a site visit. Okay. So today we are going to discuss basically what's an inspection, how to conduct an inspection, how to prepare an inspection report. Okay. Uh, Before inspection, if you are satisfied at the interview, give a date and time for an inspection at the end. That's what I told. After the interview, you have jot down the notes, the information from the customer. Now we have to verify those information. To verify physical inspection or a site visit is very important. Two scenarios in inspection: existing business or enterprise with men who have an enterprise which have been earlier borrower, and our inspection is easy because early inspection reports we can verify about the customer's background, about the business, what type of business, how it's working the business, or information available. But for a new business, we have to prepare a checklist. What are you going to inspect? What are the, because when you go for interview, inspection, sometimes you may forget certain information, but to check. Because when you're going to negotiate or discuss with the customers, sometimes customer may deviate your attention to somewhere else, the factors. So what factor you want to investigate, customer may deviate in the course of the discussion. Therefore, get ready, prepare. Then you can check what are the areas to be inspected. Okay. Then next step is the prepare a groundwork for inspection. That's the background. Go through already collected information and make notes. That's what I told was still this time. Go through the corrected information at the interview, at the loan application, in the current account performance, and the customer's background, the information we got, and what we are noted. Now what we are going to do is the item to be checked and details to be looked into. That's what you have to prepare a checklist. Prepare before go for inspection, get ready. It's not just walking in for inspections. Okay. Questions to be asked, make a visit plan. So now when you get ready, prepared, the customer cannot run away. Sometimes customers have, I'll give you example later. Whenever we inform the customer that we are coming for inspection, they also get ready. They also prepare. They also get ready, prepare තොරන් ගහලා මේ short piece ගෙනල්ලා කැම බීම ගෙනල්ලා they also get ready. But we have to be very careful about those things. So I'll give you some cases in the past when we go for inspections, what happens, how we conduct the inspection, and what are the what do you call finer points that come into consideration. Okay. Inspection of existing business. Check the address. The address given in the registry sheet, and go through the accounts, go through the business customers registration, business registration. And sometimes you may find some companies registered address is different from the business address. Registered address is different. So different place are registered for the office. But the business is somewhere else. So check this before you go. Where you have to visit. Check the name board for the name of the business address. When you go there, see whether the name board and the business address is correct. Cross check with the business registration. Right? Business registration for a company where they ask for business registration, it is certificate of incorporation, verify the address. Then check assets and liability position. Physical verification of assets and liabilities. And check the level of operations. Manufacturing organization as well as a trading organization. So these two will go through in detail in the next slides. Then present asset position. What you want to find out. Fixed assets. Land, buildings, plant and machinery, vehicles, and other fixed assets. What is in the balance sheet? What is in the balance sheet? And what is given in the loan application? First check. And see whether all these information given are telling each other. Sometimes you may find customer fixed assets in the balance sheets is not appearing in your loan application. At the time of scrutinize the application, you have to verify that. Why is that not included? Right? Now we are going to inspect the land and buildings, plant and machinery, vehicles, and other fixed assets. But basically, condition of the asset. Land, buildings, specifically plant and machinery, and their age and capacity. What is the manufacturing capacity of this plant and machinery? Right? Now, when we consider for a facility, we take the capacity, manufacturing capacity is a very important factor, and we negotiate at what capacity, if the business is run, can break even or profitable. So above that capacity should be operated, right? Should be operated above that. Then age of the machinery, whether it is a sometimes you may find some machineries are uh, they are what do you call the life period has been over, so new machinery has to be buy. Sometimes that those machines is workable, although book value is zero. They are depreciated for example 5 years. After 5 years, book value is zero. But the machine is and the vehicle specifically is there. Vehicles are depreciated for 5 years normally, and they are 20%, but still vehicles can be used. So see, those vehicle, the value of the vehicle has been again booked. The need for additional assets. If the business for expansion, what type of new asset needed? Either new buildings has to be put up, construction, or new building has to rent out, new plant and machinery, furniture and fittings. It's needed. But what is the position? The customer can manage with the present machinery and the fixed asset, well and good, that's ideal situation. Expansion within that asset without expanding assets. Sometimes you may find needed for additional assets. So then take a note that facility has to be included in that cost. In the current assets, the most important part is this. Current assets inventory. Inventory, check the inventory. Stock in trade, raw material, work in progress, finished goods, packing materials. So inventory, check inventory, stock in trade for trading organizations. Trading organization, stock in trade. Take a valuation of stock. So we'll discuss in detail how to conduct this inspection. In the raw material, work in progress, finished goods, packing material. Those are for manufacturing organization. Any obsolete stocks. Right? So we'll discuss the impact of obsolete stock on the next slides. Sometimes you may find the stocks inventory, especially stock in trade, trading organization, their stocks are not belongs to them. Those are consignment stock. What are consignment stocks? There's somebody use some stocks inventory to sell and give the money back. Give the money after selling. So goods are kept. Those stocks are not belongs to the customer, but in their premises, these stocks are also there. So these stocks has to be segregated from the stock list. It should not be included in the stock list because in the case of if you take a stock mortgage, the bank, in the case of a default, when you're going to confiscate or we call seize the stocks, we cannot take this consignment goods because it's not belongs to the customer. It's not belong to the borrower. So separate list should be there, any consignment stock. And mortgage to other banks. Now this is very important. I'll give cases later. It's mortgage to the other banks. Because the stocks are movable asset. Stocks are movable asset. It is there's no what do you call the register or what do you call this legal to check the title of the stocks. To whom it's belong. So customer may do certain manipulation, connivance, mortgage to 2-3 banks. We came across these cases. But now this has been suspended with the I discussed last week. The important at the crib, there's a check about the stocks or any movables has to be registered on the security registration. Security registration the crib has to be registered. So you can check on the security registration whether these stocks have been mortgaged on the bank. Then debtors age analysis. Need to do age analysis. And very important factor about the debtors are you calculate later on the ratio analysis in the data collection period. Take a debtors age analysis. Any data is more than 6 months, it is you have to consider NPA, non-performing. In other words, a bad debt. If there's a bad, if there are any debtors are there more than 6 months, that's frozen, it has to be written off to the PNL. Sometimes customer not pay writing off because the profit may decline. Therefore, they just keeping the debtors in the debtors register, but they cannot collect it, useless. So we have to make provision for that, whether provision has been made or not, as doubtful debt. So this is checking the current assets for the customer. On the other side of the balance sheet, the current liabilities, the creditors position. Trade creditors. How long trade creditors have been given to this customer? The period, duration. The longer the period, better for the cash flow. Longer the period, it's better for the cash flow. But at what cost? What cost? When the creditors are given credit, the period is longer, they'll add the financial cost to that pricing. So it will be affecting the profitability of the business. How best the creditors are serviced, how often they are paid. Right? Now, the important factor here, I have to bring to your notebooks because it's too early, but that was the important factor. There are certain creditors are not shown in the balance sheet. Okay? Certain type of creditors, it is not shown in the balance sheet. Okay? When at the debtors also we have that type. Certain type of debtors are not shown in the balance sheet. Creditors, they are given, the customer has given checks for settlement of creditors. Then the creditors account will be debited and there are two creditors appearing in the balance sheet. But those checks are bounced. Those checks are not bounced. Now, where this information is available? Customer gives checks to the creditors and the checks are returned because lack of fund. Now checks are with the creditors, right? But according to the customer's balance sheet, it shows as creditors balance has been reduced by that amount. Okay. So similarly, vice versa other side, debtors. When the debtors shows, debtors are giving checks to the customer. It has been defaulted. Check returns. Now these check returns are how the customer has accounted. It has to be put again back, the debtors has to be created. But most of the instances you find debtors are not debited. They are just keeping the checks in hand as a recoverable. Now where is this amount is appearing? It is not showing in the debtors. So when you calculate the debtor ratio, I will discuss this in detail. Therefore, it will affect our ratios and to see the performance of the customer. This is very important factor you will find out. The bank's statement, reconciliation statement. Its creditors' checks has been bounced, debtors' checks has been bounced. It's appearing only in the reconciliation statement. So a very important document has to be scrutinized by the bankers. Right? Bank balance, book balance. There's a difference. So it has to be reconciled. The reconciliation statement, you find all these check returns, in the creditor check returns as well as the debtors check returns. Payable, receivable. And that part has not been shown in the balance sheet. It is outside the balance sheet. Then comes to accruals, payables. Now, what type of accruals are there? What creditors? Payment of statutory payments, like salaries and taxes, right? Income tax, VAT, other statutory payments are accrued. Those are called accruals. Those are not shown as creditors. Now let's see the breakdown is accruals, basically. If it's accrual statutory payment, there are certain instances customer may work out the what you call profitability of paying or not, or delaying the payment. For example, if the customer has to pay municipality taxes, right? Like if the accounts customer's cash flow is deteriorated, they cannot pay completed. Whether you borrow from the bank and paying is worthwhile or just pay a penalty is worthwhile. Compare these two. Mostly customers they do that, especially large customers. Delaying payment of income tax, they have to pay a penalty of let's say 5%. This is worthwhile or borrowing from the bank and paying is worthwhile. Most of the customer doing approvals because this is sometimes a beneficiary paying a penalty than borrowing from the bank to pay the bank. Then whether applicants' payments are regular, specifically salaries, statutory payment like what you call EPF, ETF. Yeah, those are very important because the moment they the inspection inspected by the labor department and found that employees these statutory payments are not made, they may file action. So it will go another cost to the customer. So see whether it is paid in the due date. Any signs of overtrading? What is overtrading? We'll discuss in detail in future programs. Overtrading means try to expand the business without sufficient capital. Okay. When we asked some time back what is overtrading, some of the participants have written doing more business. It is not overtrading. Overtrading is they try to expand the business without sufficient capital. Without capital, if you try to expand the business, it's called overtrading situation. It's a disaster situation. Overtrade is a risk. Right? So any signs of overtrading, looking at the balance sheet, you can identify. Then adverse trading over negative side. Right? Business opportunities are there, but business customer is not trying to expand the business. Opportunities are there, not expanding. That's called adverse trading. Okay. In the liquidity run, that is any liquidity deterioration. Right? The traditional normal liquidity ratios we work out in different way, but what we have to see is that the customer's cash flow is positive. Cash flow is positive. If not, if the cash flow is negative, so customers have a liquidity problem. You can identify that. In excessive capital commitments, the customer may have excessive capital commitments, excess capital is needed. Either it can be fixed capital or working capital. So this is another important factor the bankers has to analyze. This is what we call credit structuring. Credit structure. What is the customer's capital commitment and the capital need? Any excessive capital that will lead to uh, negative performance of the business. We can work out asset turnover ratio. Later we'll discuss these ratios. Asset turnover ratio, equity to profit ratio. So it will give you some sort of sign about the customer performance. Well, what we see the businesses operation level, manufacturing organization as well as trading organization. When you visit the trading organization, also very important. So manufacturing organization, what is the production? Production level, what type of the level of production? With the at the if it's an existing customer, at the time we have granted a facility earlier, whether the customer has been performing to the expected levels of production, that is machine capacity has been used. Trading organizations, sales. Sales is important. Sales is our basis of recovery. Sales minus expenditure is the surplus cash flow that will give to pay the loan. So the sales is very important, and the customer sales. Most of the instances you may find in the profit and loss account, trading account, the customers not showing the sales correctly, specifically sole proprietors and partnerships. Also, sometimes private limited liability companies are not showing sales properly because due to the fact that the they have to pay taxes. In the inspection, when you go for an inspection, you compare actual sales and actual sales. What is actual sales? How can you do that? I will give a case sometime back happened. So one of the customers of my when I work in the branches had obtained a facility, and if you look at the balance sheet, customers' accumulated losses are increasing and the capital is minus. Accumulated losses are increasing. That means, in other words, sales income is not sufficient to meet their expenses. Therefore, net losses have been reported. And basically, minus in capital. Take that balance sheet. Will ever any bank will consider that customer granting a facility as a bankrupted customer? So I went to inspection to see what is actual position of this customer. So RBI business. So when I went and investigated about the customer, I waited for around 1 hour. For 1 hour, without telling the customer on the outside, how much of sales within that hour the customer conducted. Value of sales. You can observe the value of sales. If you can do two or three different occasions, then you can come to an average sales level of this customer. If you work on this average sales of the customer, balance sheet should never show a loss. P&L never should not show a loss. In addition to that, the customer that in those days, 1980s, he was running private bus, luxury bus from Bangalore, Colombo, those days. He had 3 buses like that. And he had 2 on the sales outlets, Borlas Kamu and Palnipitiya. But his uh, profit loss account shows a negative picture. So inspection is very important. You can observe and construct their sales position. In the manpower, how much manpower needed, the quality of manpower, a number of things has to be looked at. In the power usage, how the power, whether it is direct power or is generating your own power, but how the power is usage. And what are the bottlenecks, the problems of the business. When you go inspection, sometimes you may find certain bottlenecks where the information shows that customer performance is hindered because of these bottlenecks. Or some problems. Sometimes these problems may be internal or can be external. In the prospects, future prospects, and they can be developed, it can be grow this business and potential for expansion. The business can be expanded. Okay. A new business or a project, especially a project lending, new enterprises, certain informations are very vital. The location. If the location is viable, whether the location is viable. What are the infrastructure facilities available? Roadways, then telecommunication, communication systems, water, power is available. Location is very important. Sometimes you may find the location, face of it is okay. But when you apply the project, when you going to start the project, you may come across certain other information, other hindrances. Right? Another case I give you for you, one of the projects I'm going to start in the Nigambu area, construction of a building. Already the first floor is done. Location is main road. 3-phase supplies going up above. So everything is okay. So that we are got the facility, put up another 2 stories. When the applicant, the borrower applied for electricity, the CEB said that the power supply cannot be given with the present supplies not sufficient to use this power supply. So that customer has to get a separate transformer fixed in their premises. At the time of analyzing, this problem was not there. We didn't see because that 3-phase supplies going over the high tension lines are going up. But the CEB says power cannot give power because the load is not sufficient. To get that line, that person has to get the line from not close by, the closest what you call distribution center is about 5 miles away. 5 kilometers, sorry. 5 kilometers away. So 5 kilometers here will get a line, get this one. Now what is the cost? Okay. Or other option is customer have to use generator. It's a high cost. noise pollution and the diesel cost, everything comes to. So we had to enter in an additional facility to get a supply line. So at the time of the new enterprises, although you may find that all the lines are there, but to what extent it is. The second thing is about the other infrastructure facilities, about telecommunication. To what extent the signals are stored, what is the strength of the signals. අපි මේ බලන්නේ නැහැනේ. We have to see for that also. Those are what we call bottlenecks and hindrances. For new enterprise, fixed assets, what are the available with the customer? Land and buildings. So what are the, if you have to buy plant and machinery? Okay, when you project, from where is you buy? Who are the vendors? What get an invoice from them? Whether he's using a what you call reconditioned machinery or brand new machinery. How many has going to buy? Get the invoice from the vendors and see the machine capacity with the matches with the customers need. Okay. So vehicles, whether you have to purchase a vehicle, better or going for use what type of a facilities for this plant and machinery vehicles, what type of facilities better, whether going to outright purchase or loan or leasing. So which is more viable for that project? Which product is viable for that project? We have to evaluate. The availability utilities I just told, infrastructure, and the closer to the market, availability of other utilities very important. Other factors, example manpower, labor, and other facilities with the utilities. Can you remember the Premadasa's period? The garment factories were taken from the town to villages. Nagarain Gamata. What was the objective of the at that time, President Premadasa?
Manpower.
Yeah, there are two things. Number one is overcrowding townships has to be reduced because when you're located in the main town, right, the people are coming to the town and urbanization is very rapid. So the urbanization problem is supplying utilities and other things can increase, therefore reducing that. Main objective of that, taken the factories to the villages. Nagarain Gamata. Right? So, now, what is the position? If you look at, if you go for the outstations, we see in the morning or evening, how many number of buses are there to bring these laborers? But from that location, from outside. So the main objective of that shifting that was not success. Still the manpower is not available in that area. Manpower has to be supplied from outside. So with the transport and the facilities, in this, you can see in this apparel industries. So this has to be taken into consideration. What is the manpower size? What type of quality manpower needed? What are the basic requirements? Whether it is available here in the locality. Okay, so new projects went for inspection. This has to be looked at. Then location of the enterprise, access to the site. Another important factor. What is the roadway? When you consider for certain things, the access to the site is very have to be looked at very carefully. Now, for example, if a customer want to put up a what do you call warehouse store, a warehouse. So it's out of the town in the area. He's going to put up sale. What is the access needed? Now, normally, whenever we grant a facility, the road, road access should be right. Normally 10 feet above, or 10 feet. So this type of a business venture, commercial venture, the 10 feet access is sufficient. You cannot take a lorry or a container. So it has to be more than that, can be at least 50 to 20 feet roadway should be there. Access to the site. 10 feet is not sufficient. Although we are considered for facilities, 10 feet normally can go for specific housing loans and all. But that is not the standard rule. That is what normally we call it access. When you have a roadway, when you consider for a facility, the roadway should be motorable roadway. Motorable roadway. Then transport facilities available. Right? What type of transport facility depending on their product. The product can be bought in the market, selling point, what type of transport need, how the transport is arranged. And sometimes you may find certain products are manufactured by some for certain people, but can be distributed by somebody else. If you look at products with the Dali Butler, Ekita and Coleman, they are not manufacturing those items that they are selling. Ninja manufacturer and then Dali Butler. They are manufactured somebody else, and they are the distributors. Right? So, who are the distributors for the new business? Then, raw material supply line, whether it is locally available, locally supplied, frequently available, or what is the time lag between supply manufacturer to the site and the supply, how long it will take. This is important for us to find out the working capital finance. Working capital finance, how much of raw material has to be stored. That depending on the supply line. How much of raw material have to be stored, kept in the stores to what the smooth running of the manufacturing organization. For that, we had to find out what is the supply line, supply chain. How long it will take to supply. If the raw materials are freely available, then within a shorter period we can get out. Customer need not to store, need to be warehouse and store and invest money on that. Right? So that is working capital finance when we have discussed. We had to look into that. We are finance for working capital, whether it is needed to store for a longer period, depending on the supply line. Then the availability of labor. So the labor incentive, intensive one, labor. Discussed I also mentioned earlier regarding this carbon factory. So what type of a labor required and that type of labor is available. In the environment suitability, depending on the project, whether that environment, whether it's suitable for that business. Here you have to identify the UDA regulations. Okay. You have to go study about the UDA regulation. According to UDA, Urban Development Authority regulation, you cannot put commercial or industrial unit in the residential area. Similarly, vice versa, in the industrial area, you cannot establish or put up residential houses. The UDA regulations. Then, what are the other environmental regulations? Those suitability. There are certain area, certain laws are practical in Sri Lanka, established certain, regarding the environment suitability. Now, for example, can you put out, can you fill cultivatable land, heavy land? Can you fill up and put up a factory or business organization there? It's
No.
prohibited. You can't. Prohibited. According to the Agrarian Service Act, you can't fill a from paddy land. Similarly, Land Reclamation Act, you cannot uh, cut tea, rubber, or coconut estate. You cannot set this thing without approval. You cannot put up a building close to the sea. According to the Coast Conservation Act, yes, 100 meters from the shore, you cannot put up any construction. Hmm? Likewise, there are a number of other laws are there in the country. In certain Colombo City, the Colombo City, there are a number of land reclamation acts are applied for the coastways, that were waterways. Right? Canal Development Authority have put up a 60 feet from the canal bank, Colombo, Western Province, Colombo City. The canals are interconnected, Dutch canals are interconnected. So you cannot put up a construction 60 within 60 feet either side. So these are legal side. On the other hand, environmental suitability, right? Now, we are not going to put up a store warehouse where the risky areas of land, where the uh, uh, building department, uh, disaster management department has, there are zones, certain zones have been given as a, when the rainy season, there can be landslides. So we have to study those things also, the suitability of the environment. Then other environmental laws, sound pollution, noise pollution, waste management, all these factors has to look in the location, select the location, how the customers will get. So the environmental suitability is a very broad subject. So most of our bankers are not aware of the certain laws. This is very important to understand. Because after granting a facility, if any environmental uh, laws applicable, you are in trouble. Then other factor is close into a school or a government organization, airport. Those are think twice. Whenever they want to expand those places, then that land has to be maybe acquired by the government. This has happened a number of areas. So basically, you have to see that what is the suitability. The land, what is the extent, and what is the minimum extent for a project needed, and nature of the land. So marshal land, tillable land, uh, what you call, it has to be developed. What type of a land? What is the extent? Whether land development is required to be filled, lands, slopy lands, cut and developed. Whether it has been authority for that. Filling, leveling, retaining wall, draining, very important. Sometimes you may find that certain lands are on the slopey of the hill, so they need a retention wall to stop earth coming down in the rainy season. So what amount of things needed there to establish? It's very important. The year of purchase and what's the purchase price? Customer, year of purchase, what's the purchase price? Estimated current value. We have to get a valuation report and see what is the current value. Okay, the buildings and structures. What are things you are going to look into when you go for inspection? Nature, mode of construction, approximate age, nature of the building, whether it's commercial building or residential building, warehouse, what type of a nature. The mode of construction, brick construction, cement block, concrete, what is the roof, what the floor, what the strength of the structure. The approximately age. So age is very important for sometime evaluation. Of course, they'll take the age. Depending on the age, only the valuation changes. In the floor area or the cubic area, how much? What is floor area? Whether this is sufficient for the present need as well as for the future area expansion. In construction value and the present value. If it's a building, what is the cost of the construction? Right? Building value. It's normally the construction, new construction, get work out for the construction value with the using of a BOQ or a quantity survey report. If it's existing building, that means valuation report has to be taken for the construction. See the present value. Then again, we are talking about the land level utilities, electricity supply, water supply, infrastructure, roads, etc., etc. Then plant layout. With the manufacturing organization, how the plant is laid out. The plants are what nature of the plant. Nature of the plant. Whether it's a what do you call fixed nature or moving nature. It depends movable or immovable. If it's a plant has to be fixed permanent with the flow with the concrete board, it's a fixed. Then what's the layout? They lay out problems. Layout problems. Sometimes these are all like cases happen all month. There was one of the cases I give you at he said Indian Ceramic Corporation plant. Ceramic Corporation plant was at Iliandala. They have manufacturing those days. These are long time before manufacturing ceramic goods, ceramic plates and cups and saucers at Iliandala. The layout was there. It has to be done by the what we call the basic manufacture has done, and it has to be taken to the kiln about several meters away. And laborers are carrying these plants and going, these finished goods are taken to the kiln. Because the nature of the clay is muddy, most of the instances it is slippery. The moment it's slippery, the entire lot will fall down and damage, destroy. So again redo it. So subsequently to looking at this problem and arrange with the that resources actually at that time it's a government organization and engineers were suggested to make a belt without moving, physically moving. On the belt, you can make it. Like there's problems. If you can identify something like that, how to, I feel sometimes we go for certain garment factories apparel industries. This thing, you can see in some photographs, the production, manufacturing production are taken place to place by the laborers uh, by hand. So when it is needed, and lay out any problems. The need for expansion, identify present need and the future need. Then machinery and equipment. What are the machinery, equipment going to be used? Existing as well as a new business. Existing one, look at the make, model, and identification number. Right? Because you have to check with the first mortgage to the bank, check with the mortgage, what is this, whether it's tally with the mortgage bond. Make model and identification should be incorporated in the mortgage bond. Then install capacity, I told earlier also, the vendor use the capacity of manufacturing so much. But when we are granting a facility, we are not considering 100% capacity. It is either 75 or 80%. We keep a small margin for any improvement needed, not 100%. Then install capacity, when they utilize, look at for when you go inspection, install capacity versus the utilized capacity. If the utilized capacity is lower than installed capacity, what will happen? The cost will increase and profit may decline. It will affect our prepayment. So always see the customer, maintain install capacity minimum or about that. I give you another example. This happens when we had the SME3 and scheme. We granted facility for a customer to manufacture socks. They imported a machine from India under the bank loan scheme for 50,000 rupees for that time. 50,000 rupees, he imported a machine from India and started the manufacture of socks. Competitively, we had the market to sell also. When we work out the project proposal and project report and install capacity, we worked out customer, if you run for the machine for 8 hours, he can manufacture so much of dozens of socks. And it can be finishing and put in the market, they can sell it and can be recover the facility. And also the vendor had given the lifetime of the machinery was 5 years. Right? On the other hand, on the SME project lending scheme, the loan period was given 5 years. So we consider the loan for 5 years and give this facility. After about 2 years, this customer complained machine is not functioning properly. It will always break down and he want to dispose the machinery and he want to settle the facility. This is the problem. Always breakdowns are very heavy. Therefore, a lot of time the damages are increased. Therefore, you have to incur losses. So we went for inspection to see actually what is the position of the customer. So small business. What we found was there was a heavy demand. Heavy demand for these socks, specifically school children, white socks. And due to the heavy demand, what the customer has done, 24 hours he run the machine. 24 hours he run the machine. That means, in other words, 3 shifts. 8-hour shifts, 3. So within 1 year, 3 days production has been bought and production sold and earned profits. Invariably, machine getting wall off, no? If it runs for 24 hours continuously, within 3 months, the entire machine has been used for 1 year's capacity. So the machine has been what do you call depreciated more than our depreciation value. Okay, lucky, good customer was very good, and he agreed to settle because he had earned profits earlier. So he settled the facility, and I think he may have disposed of the machine for a scrap value and imported another machine. He didn't ask for a loan after that because he had sufficient money to import another machine. What we learned from this customer's business, what we learned was, although install capacity given, the customer can, or vendor has given a certificate that this machine can be used for 5 years, and the loan schemes were given can give for 5 years, we should not go for that period. There are two reasons. First reason is, if the customer, we make inspection after granting facility, post supervision we have to do. When you go as post supervision facility, this customer has been manufacturing more than the capacity what we expected, we should increase the loan installment. We know that definitely, so within this shorter period, the machine is going to run off or depreciate. So we can increase the loan installment, reduce the period, and recover. That's the one option. That's the best option. Second option is, the second problem is here, what we call in the machineries, we have got what you call technical obsolescence. Technical obsolescence. What is technical obsolescence? There are certain machines, all the vendor given for lifetime life period 5 years. Within 2 years or 3 years time, a new machine has been developed by the same company with a high capacity. So what will happen? That particular early machine is automatically getting obsolescence. It's called technically obsolescence. So manufacturing for the old machine is very high cost. Therefore, manufacturers are not paid manufacturing that. So therefore, what we advise always, if you're taking machinery mortgage, right? Machinery mortgage, loan should not go more than 3 years. Right? You have to recover within 3 years. You can recover the rest of the 2 years. If a customer runs a machine or not, we have not bothered because we have already recovered our part. You keep in mind this. These are practical approaches when you do lending. Then the machinery purchase price. What is the invoice value? And what is present value? It is an existing business. If you go for inspection, normally we have to conduct inspection once in 6 months minimum, and see what is the value of the machine. Take a valuation. Either it can be a professional valuer or by ourselves we can get valuation with the customer's help or a technician. Go to the service contract. When the vendor has given a service contract, what frequency the vendor has been servicing the machine, agree. And see the records, service records, whether the vendor has serviced the machine according to the contract. Sometimes you may find the contract is given, but vendor has not given a free service. Now we had certain cases, we had got some for our office, some air conditioning machines from the Abans. So they are given a contract, service contract. They say that this will be free service by every 3 months, and for a year for free services. Thereafter, you have to pay for it. The service team didn't come. Six for not come. After giving calls after calls, only they came for the service. So they came after 9 months. All the agreement says every 3 months. So yes, right, this is practically happening. See in the inspection with the contract, according to service contract, the windows has been covered, service the machinery. And history of machine repairs. Sometimes machine repairs, needed repairs on the operation. Sometimes you may find machines need repair due to mal operations. Technicians or technical people, when you recruits new people, you may find the machines are getting damaged and it needs repairs, frequent repairs. And sometimes depending on the labor, sometimes depending on the machine itself, certain parts are on. So, but the frequency of machine operation repairs, they should have a record. And this has to be verified. In evidence of technical problems, sometimes you may find the customer may have asked for certain type of a machinery to certain companies. Normally, vendors are given a rosary picture about the functions of everything. They are hiding the technical problems. After fixing and start operations only, this technical problems are proper. Okay, so identify those things when you go for inspection. What are the common technical problems? How the vendors have been fixed those things? At what cost? Whether the customer's cost or is that done a free service? When is covered this technical problems covered by the contract of service. Okay. Sometimes you may find that this happens most of the time. Whenever you report a technical problem within the window, they put the saying there's something wrong with the user, right? They are not used properly or some blame on them and try to avoid their responsibility. This is you can see this. Then the vehicles, inspection of vehicles, very important. Whenever you inspect a vehicle, there are very three things has to be very important things has to be looked at. You compare with the CR book, the make, model, and the registration number. It should be typed. Why is important? At least I told you, all collateral securities, at least minimum every 6 months has to be inspected. An inspection report has to be prepared. Stock in trade every 3 months. So make, model, registration number you check. Why is that we check? Sometimes the customer may change the engine. Customer may change engine. Sometimes without understanding knowledge, it can happen. So the moment it has been changed the engine, if it's an existing loan and the vehicle has been mortgaged to the bank, if the engine has been changed, engine number is different, then we don't have a ownership on that vehicle. We don't have a title on the machine. The vehicle. So that is where understand very carefully. Make, model, registration number and engine number, chassis number. Both has to be checked. Both has to be checked. If the engine has been changed, then we have to get re-registered engine. Engine has to be re-registered. Otherwise, on the other side, one is If it's a mortgage, you don't have a title. On the other hand, if anything happened to damage, no insurance claim. So that's the risk. That's happened to me last time, right? And by my vehicle, and always there's some problem. Just after 5 years of use, it's a factory defect. This is the oil burns. So when I put into the repair, the company, they said the engine mount has to be changed. So I allowed to change and engine mount has changed and redone. Now it's a vehicle is doing okay. I didn't realize that. Then before I came for the insurance renewal, they came and said that engine maru. So I said, no, engine maru. Engine head again. I did a repair. Is a repair. So when you change the engine head, the number is changed now. So I had to take them again to RMB at Perahara, show the vehicle, getting approval, and come to Narayanpeta, get a re-registration. That's a long procedure. Otherwise, I don't get the insurance claim. So if it's mortgage to the bank, checking these things are very important. Make the engine number, make what less is identification, and engine number, chassis number are important. Check treatment. Then what are purchase price and the current value? Possible you get a valuation report. Now recently I saw LB Finance has sent a message saying that current market price has been increased. Current market price has been increased. Therefore, contact the insurance agent and try to increase the value of the vehicle to the market value. That has to be done. That we have to do. That means at what price to have to register, get the insurance? At the market value. Not at the book value. The market. Okay. Then the state of repairs. Right? You see what are the repairs need taken place. If you take a valuation report, sometimes the valuation report, the value may give the certain repairs. Sometimes it's not, sometimes not visible, and not showing. What are the other things if you inspect the vehicle to do? There are few more things has to be done. Check for the service report. Any vehicle, it has to be serviced at the relevant mileage. Relevant mileage, whether it has been serviced. Full service, engine change of engine oil and filters has been changed. Check for those information. If it's an existing facility, the mortgage to the bank, then if you are not serviced properly, the value may deteriorate due to the status. Right? There was a case, one of the customers, vehicle was on release from the bank and given on the lease, and the bank given the vehicle to the company for as a rental car, a company, a famous company. So once I had to go for this company for investigation, on the way I got down on the way, and some few these three-wheel drivers were there on the way road. So at Matakuli, yard was at Matakuli. On the way, so he asked, so वाहन दिले මේ company. Said yes. අපෝ sir මේකේ driver ලා නම් කිසි වගතුවක් නැහැ වාහන ගැන. මේ බලන්න මෙතන මේ වලවල් වල යනවා 60 70 ස්පීඩ් එක. So what I found out, the customers complaining always that the suspensions and other things always has to be replaced due to the usage is otherwise. And vehicle was completely smashed. Papada didn't want it. So insurance company, before the insurance, to take a claim, you have to make a claim. To make a claim, you have to put an entry in the police station. Right? So when you went to the police station, police said, driver is Dripat. So I told the company told, who is the driver? Who is it? There's no one driver. No one is taking responsibility. Ultimately, customer have to bear the cost of repairing it. This is ultimately, otherwise, the value of the vehicle is below the market price and the loan value. So, vehicle inspection is not just merely looking at the registration physically of the vehicle. The other factor is very important. This is not doing with the current certain electronic vehicles. The keys. Every time you go for inspection once in 6 months, you have the duplicate key. Take the duplicate key and try to open the doors and try to start the engine. Why? Customer used his key for longer time and it may be worn off and that even the key hold may be used to that. You are having a key without unused and it's in the original status. Sometimes you may not be able to put the key inside the hole to go to start. What is the importance of this? In the case of a default, you give the duplicate key to Caesar to take the vehicle. He opens, he should be able to open and start and bring the vehicle. Because the customer is not giving the key. He is not giving his key. We have to use our duplicate key to start and come. Customer can change the key. The key can be worn off. Therefore, always you see, whenever you go for inspection, change the key. Give the duplicate to the customer, bring the customer's key and put in the safe. These are practical how to do the inspection, carry out the inspection. What you have to do in the inspection. Okay, keep in mind that if a customer defaulted, we have to seize the vehicle. To seize the vehicle, should be able to open the doors and start the. Now this is the problem with the present what you call electronic keys. And electronic keys are only one key. So you have to see the duplicate key always in using. Sometimes customer may have changed the keys. Then we have to get a duplicate done for the bank to launch in the bank. Okay. Right. What are the other fixed assets? Furniture and office equipment. Normally once in 5 years. The furniture and fittings are most of the companies are changing. Present furniture fittings are actually not durable. Most of them are made out of MDF boards and only shows, not like those days hard furnitures. Now all the furniture got available to the market are only show off. Not even 5 years you can use it. So see whether those furnitures have been changed frequently. Then ancillary power standby generator was whenever in a power failure, the business, the operations can be continued as standby generator. Now, this is such a some time back I did this slides. The present one is what is called alternative generation of power. That is solar power. Some factories we have seen that running on solar power, right? So, specifically, I had came across with at Prima glass company. Their Horror factory is completely running by uh, solar power. So, by which they are reducing their cost and earning profits. So, this speculation is whether need to change the power supply method. If they are using heavy plant power, if the electricity bills are very heavy, we can suggest giving a loan facility for that for solar power. And the air conditioners, whether it has been serviced, I told you earlier, was mostly air conditioners life period is not more than 5 years. It has to be replaced within 5 years, after 5 years. Then the fire extinguishers. Fire extinguishers, when you go to explain what are you going to do with fire extinguishers? See whether it is being serviced. Fire extinguishers have service, and that should be labeled with their date of service. Don't go to test it, right? Once you test it, it's over. You can't refill. You have to refill it again. Therefore, just check for the date of fire extinguisher. About the date, right? And secondly, where the fire extinguishers has been placed. Where the fire extinguishers have been placed. According to the insurance companies, when you take the fire insurance for a building, they give the what you call site plan first to keep the fire extinguishers. ඉතින් උඩ කියන්න ඕන ටැංක් කොතනද කියලා ලකුණු කරලා තියෙන plan එක. Verify that. Ask for it and check that. Whether in that particular places where the fire extinguishers has been kept. ඔයාලට කේස් එකක් දෙන්න මේකට. This happened in Paharagama. We are granted a facility, apparel garment industry. They are imported raw material, right? That in fabrics and stored at Paharagama, one of the warehouses. So this fabric was imported on the bank loan. The bank has given a facility, and it was locked, kept in there. And we had taken a fire insurance policy covering the entire stocks as well as the building. Right? So in the fire, I told you, there are 6 places that are marked to keep the fire extinguishers. So whenever we go, we check when the fire extinguisher are placed on the places where it has been mentioned. So this place, what happened, one day there was a fire, got caught fire, and building was what do you call, all the raw material, this fabric was start burning under the fire. Okay. Then the fire brigade came and tried to put down the fire, and they put down the fire. So half of the fabrics were damaged due to the fire, was burned. Half of the fabrics were due to the water hit by the fire brigade, it was damaged. The stocks was damaged. So we came to know about the situation. We came early in the morning, we went for the checking. What we found was all 6 fire extinguishers were in the guard room. Fire extinguishers high but only guard room. We asked Security officer, I defect here. Baru uttarayak dundi. Metan aragin duan taggal aragin yanna lesi ni sega metal kila bitti. Metal inni metal aragin yanna lesi we can take it easily from here. Unta nindagi illa. Security guard that. But baagya picture agar that ni. So this I give example cases. Understand the importance of our inspection. What to look. I told tiny points. We had to do inspections. Check. In the tools used by the operation special manufacturing organization, what tools they use, and what are the value of the tools. Normally, we are not giving any facility against tools, and usage of tools, updating of tools. We have to check that. Right. Again, come back to inventory. We'll go in details. What is inventory? How to check inventory? There are inventory, different types of inventory. One is raw material for manufacturing organizations. In the manufacturing organization, we get work in progress, that is half done production. Work in progress means half done. Then you get a third stock is the finished goods. Packing materials. Now, these are the four items in the manufacturing organization. Consumables are trading organizations. They have the stocks. What are the things you are looking in the inventory? You go for inspection for an inventory. If the inventory is, if the existing facility inventory is mortgaged to the bank, or new customer is going to mortgage the inventory to the bank. Right? So both sides we had to look into and how we are going to do the inspection on inventory. Right? Number one is quantity and the value. How much the inventory, what's the value? Okay. Who prepares this? Who prepares the valuation report for inventory? Who does the valuation? Motor vehicles, that is specialized valuer. Right? Building and land and building, that's a valuer. Machinery, of course, that's valuers. Large machineries, yes, valuers are there. But stocks in trade or the inventory, who is the value? Yeah, value is done by the customer. Customer prepares the stock list. In the stock list, he mentioned the value so much. Now, important factor here is customer can exaggerate the value and show high book value. High book value, not the book value, actually the statement value. So we work out that for collateral and grant a facility. What will happen? There's a risk. The collateral value is not covering our loan, our facility. Therefore, the value has to be looked into very carefully. The stock list, there are four things we have to look into. Right? Number one is the value. At what is the valuation to be mentioned in the stock list? Either purchase price or invoice value or market price. What value you have to do the valuation? Market price or the invoice value? What is the value you are making?
Market price.
Market price. Okay. Valuation should be done. Market price or invoice value, whichever is less. Okay, whichever is less. That's our valuation. So when a customer brings a value a stock list, do a sample check of the valuation, whether it is market value or invoice value, whichever is less. Compare it. Then the quantity, stock list, the quantity given in the stock list, physical verification of the stock list. When you go inspection, you will do a specific physical check of the quantity of the stocks. Right? So this is a tedious job sometime you may find, but you can do a sample check. The large businesses you may find stocks are computerized. Stocks are computerized. So you can get a computer printout of the stocks amount and just sample check one or two items. If the items are tally, then you can satisfy that. Present context, most of things are made easy, not like those days. So I'll do something you may find some we're doing manually the inspection for inventory checking. Customers may do certain manipulations. I'll give few incidents when we came across. This happened when we doing the batch some before. One of the case, we informed the customer it's about a textile trader at Third Street. We told the customer that we are coming for the inspection. We going to wait at the bank. So when we went to the inspection, myself and manager we went, and we just picked up. Right? Stock list and the stocks are compared. And we were satisfied. So they were treated us well also. No region Baldiganella, Shopkins Canella. They treated well also. So we after that we went for another inspection. On the way, going on the way in the vehicle, manager told that he had left his glasses at that particular shop. We have to go back. I said, not. On the way, we will go back because this place that we are going to inspect, we don't need the glasses. We don't need the glasses, so we can go there, finish that inspection, and come back. On the way, return, we can go and collect the glasses and go. Those days we didn't have these mobile phones and everything. So we had to go for a place where telephone is established. Mobile phones and miscellaneous. So we went for inspection, the second one, and returned back. On the way, we went to the shop that had been inspected earlier. See, nothing in the shelves. Half of the shelves are empty. What has happened? අල්ලපු කලේ විජ බඩු ටික තමයි කියලා දේවන්න වෙන්නේ. So this is where sometimes customers may try to play out us. Okay. So having spot inspections without telling the customer, just walk in. That's the best thing. Another incident, it has happened in the 1980s happened. We have very scarce. Very scarce goods. The shirt manufacturing, we have got a facility import of material and manufacturers. So we went for inspection. The manager started counting boxes. Each box contains 1 dozen. So start it horizontally and vertically and try to multiply. So we were very young guys, no? But in the van, there was a yardstick on the table. I took it and pulled one box out and it fallen down. It was empty. It was empty. So we took another box that contained only 6 shirts, not full. So we give then the customer knows that we count the boxes horizontal and we never expect we to check the inside. So what happened to me? Our manager said, now take all, put it down and count everything. So I had to count everything. Anyway, so you may find this type of problems with the paddy warehouses. Paddy warehouses වල work out of page stone දුන්නම be careful. Right? අපෝ 10 තමයි දෙන්නේ වී නැහැ. වී ටික උස්සලා 10ට ගන්න දාන්න පුළුවන් ගස්සට. So check the quantity and the quality of the goods. Okay. In present context, you can't do this. Another case, it was happened, another warehouse, they all put in there. Another warehouse, we went for inspection. Warehouse.
Excuse me, මහේෂන්ගේ mic එක off කරන්න දැන්.
Okay, sorry. Thank you. So, we went for inspection at Kottayena. While we are getting into the premises, there are some Natamis who are just keep that what you call carts in front of the warehouse. And in Tamil he said, sir, yes, you came yesterday also. So it struck me very something fishy here. So I went around in the building to see. There was another entrance on the other side. The other side means it is in the by lane. The main road address is given 42 Kottayena Street for us. And there's another lane going inside where that called Pragyan on the road. There's entrance on that side also. The same premises. So we checked the investigator and see, found out that front side is the same stock has been mortgaged to Bank of Sri Lanka on the front side with a separate number, that separate what you call building number, and the other side for the People's Bank. Same stock, no insurance covers. Okay, now to avoid this only, I told you earlier that the crib has been brought, registration of the movables, right? Registration of movables, register has been established because of that. Now you can't do that. If you register once, you can check. So it's the duty of the bankers, whoever grant facilities against stocks and other movables has to register at crib. Okay, so first one is the valuation. Second one is a type of what you call what are the type of inventory given for the mortgage. There are 4 types of inventories are not accepted as inventory for mortgage purposes. Number 1, perishable goods. Cannot accept perishable goods or as mortgages, as stocks. So anything there perishable goods, they are removed from the stocks to obtain the stock valuation. Secondly, hazardous chemicals. It's not agrochemicals, hazardous chemicals, they are not accepting as securities, collateral. Thirdly, petroleum products, they are not accepting as collateral. We came across some time back in an inspection, one of the banks in the rural areas taken 1,000 liters of petrol as stock in trade. So that is as a licensed dealer dealing with petrol. So bank has taken that as mortgage. Normally we don't take this petroleum products. Fourth one, valuable, what you call gems and jewelries and precious stones. Gems, jewelries and precious stones we are not taking as a mortgage, but we can obtain as a pledge. Right? So we'll discuss what is a pledge and what is a mortgage in the future programs. This can be only pledge. Right? So the type of what are the type of inventory in the price valuation. The third one is the other important factor is to identify obsolete stocks. You have to take the date of purchase of the stocks. The stock list, customer has to mention date of purchase. Date of purchase. Then we can identify the date of purchase depending on the product. If it's, for example, fast moving item, more than 6 months old, that means that's obsolete stock. It cannot be sold anymore. So that has to be removed from the stocks. Okay, so these are the important factors. Verify the stock list when you go for inventory inspection. Take a stock list from the customer, check the stock list, and what are things to be verified important. Okay, then next one is bottlenecks in processing, need machinery balancing. Sometimes you can't count physically, you have to use a machine, counting machine or any technology has to be used. Right? Then finished goods, quality problems, sales problems. In the manufacturing organization, how long the finished goods are stored. Normally finished goods are stored to keep the market stable, right? Not finished goods, everything put in the market, unlike other the perishable goods. It is stored to maintain the market. So how many days to keep? That's important because finished goods are part of working capital financing product. In the quality problem is sales returns are, if sales returns are high, then some sort of problem in the quality. It shows in the it may shows in the finished goods, but those are rejected from the market. In the sales problems and difficulty in selling. Right. Next item you can check in the customer's inspection, debtors position. These are current assets. Inventory debtors are current assets. What is the position at cost? That will be an age analysis. Get an age analysis of the customer. What is the cost? How much given? And date of given the facility. So it will give you the age, how long the debtors are kept in the books. Here again, normally, depending on the business, more than 60 days, we consider say the debtors are bad debts or doubtful debts. So appropriate provision has to be made. Normally, in the balance sheet, you may find most of the businesses debtor provision for bad and doubtful debts, they take 10% or 5% from the debtors. That is the accounting trend. 5% or 10% provisioning is the trend in the accounting system. But as bankers, what we have to see is go through a age analysis and see how much of debtors are there more than 45 days, more than 60 days. Likewise, you make it up. More than 45 days are doubtful, more than 6 days is a bad date. So your provisioning has to be accordingly adjusted. The bad dates you have to make a straight away write off value. Doubtful debt, you have to make a provision accordingly, not the 10% or 5%. Then the customer, when you adjust this, shows a true picture of the debtors, true picture of the current assets. Okay. In debt collection system and the controlling system. What is system applied by the to collect it? Sometimes you may find certain businesses have appointed the collectors. They go around and collecting each customer debtors they might collect. And controlling debtors are very important. Not to allow debtors to drag the payments unnecessarily. Always keep a touch, seeing the customer when they're having a contact with the debtors with relations to his payment system. Either the part payments or complete the full payment on due date, right? That has to be verified. Then most of the instances you may find debt collection are taken place by the way of a post-dated check. Debt collection done by the way of a post-dated check. Now, when obtained a post-dated check, accounting procedures, debtors are cleared, debtors are credited, and this bank account has been debited, but still not realized. So, the debtors you show a low amount, whereas this post-dated checks are appearing. What is the accounting procedure on the post-dated checks? So this is the most crucial point in most of the businesses. The post-dated checks are, you have to inspection, you have to collect it and see how long the post-dated checks are given, period. It is 2 weeks, 1 month. What is the maturity period of the post-dated checks? And can make a, what you call work out, see what's the percentage on the less than 1 week, what's the percentage less than 2 weeks, what's the percentage of more than 1 month. It will give you some idea about the customer's liquidity crisis situation. Working capital finance, I'll do this in detail, we'll discuss. Anyway, these post-dated checks are appearing as in the bank account, but you have to check, I told earlier, bank reconciliation. Bank reconciliation gives you to this post-dated checks, how much quantum, and you verify with the physical post-dated checks. Also, along with that, return checks, unpaid return checks. Those are also, yeah, the due date we have presented for payment, it has not been paid by the bank and returned. Now, you can't re-deposit. Those cases we re-deposited. You can't go deposit again because only once you can deposit on the present collection system, bank's collection system. So those checks are just another bundle most of the customers are having. That's also debtors. Right? Now see this post-dated checks. Sorry, the return checks. Those are also considered as, see, if you are not paid properly, no, till the debtor pays, he holds the check. Most of the time you get part payment, sometimes you may not get the payment. So you have to ask the customer to make a provision for that return checks as doubtful in the P&L. So the P&L position will be. So these are not accounted. That's a problem we are having. And the bankers not know where to check. So inspection, we'll go for a customer's inspection. Look at these two items. It's very, very crucial because you are giving TODs against that. Customer asking frequent TODs to finance this post-dated checks. as well as return checks. එතන තමයි customer cash flow එක හිර වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒක clear කරගන්න customer මොකද කරන්නේ? අපෙන් තමයි ගන්නෙ bank එක. So understand the gravity of it. So whenever you go for inspection, check for it. This is our control system. Then spiraling debtors. Spiraling debtors. That means debtors are increasing their limits gradually. Debtors, if you see, when they do monthly transaction, every time, little by little, they are increasing their amount of borrowing. Purchasing. If the customer, when very carefully look at this, if the debtors are paying regularly, no harm. But when the debtors are increasing, the debtors are spiraling and increasing, what takes in the customers' capital can absorb that increase. Right? Customer capital above that's called overtrading situation. That's becoming overtrading situation. So inspection you have to check this. How the behavior of the debtors. Behavior of the debtors. Right. Creditors also same way. Age analysis, you do age analysis. How the payment history. What customer is making payments to the customer, existing customer as well as the new customer. Right? New business, there won't be any creditors. Right? Only new business you don't get creditors or debtors. This items are for existing businesses only. Are there any supply disruptions? If the payment delayed, if the payments are delayed, the supply may be getting disrupted. The suppliers may not supply. It will affect the smooth run of the business. It will be deteriorating the profits. So creditors, payment history has to be verified very carefully. Whether regularly maintain the creditor payment. And see whether any creditor making a demand for early settlement. Any creditor making a demand for early settlement. That will give an indicator for your arrest. A creditor may not trust the customer. If a creditor making early demand, that is symptom of his customers' inability to service the creditors. So it will again turn on us in our lending. Okay, so either traders may disrupt the supply or increase the price. It will both are affecting our profitability. Then the workforce, when you go for inspection, specifically in manufacturing organization. See the number of each category, but the employees are located. So for example, if you go for inspection of apparel industry, garment industry, how many jockey machine operators, how many ironing team, how many of a packing team, likewise category wise take a number. Then take wage status and mode of payment and the frequency of payment. So these are affecting the working capital, rates and the payments. Very congested and overcrowded, that's important. Very overcrowded, that means the space is not sufficient, and overcrowded, that will affect the smooth run of the labor force. They may get affected. Healthy, their health is get affected, and more the production damage can be inflicted. The labor shortages. Any labor shortages. There are certain industries you may come across. There are a shortage of labor. How do you find out that? When you're going through the roadway, sometimes the bus stands, you may find that there are certain notices hanging on the bus stands. जो कि क्रिया करो अनावश्यक है लेक्चर विल name a facility in this facility and the salary is so much. Transport provided, meals provided, breakfast provided, overtime provided. But what does it mean? Or what is implies to you? What is implies to you? There's a shortages of labor in that category. There's a demand. There's a big demand for labor in that category. So you may find that you can engage. You are lending for an organization. See whether sufficiently labor are managed. The management team, position and numbers. Who are the management team? This is not only the directors and high top level people, factory managers, accountants, personnel managers, quality controllers are the top level team. Their positions and their numbers, their experience, their qualification, salaries, and other free facilities benefits are given for these top level people. And the important part is within the management team, but to what extent the interpersonal relationship has been built up. Do they work in watertight compartments? Sometimes you may find certain organizations, there's no relationship or the what you call movement with the top level people. They are all in what you call an official level only. Whatever, not personal level or what you call the relationship level. That is affecting the team spirit as well as the quality of the management getting affected. So whenever you go for inspection, carefully inquire question from the top people, simply try to get that information. Then again, operations, we discussed earlier the machines, install capacity, utilize capacity. It is underutilized, it is affecting the profitability. If it is overutilized, it will damage in the machinery. Average daily production, but the turnover. Then statistics relating to sales and the production. Right? How much sales? What is the production? What is the ratio between the production and sales? Whether sufficient orders are there to make the manufacturing production. In service billing, what are the billing means? Electricity bills, water service, telephone, telecommunication, likewise other services, providing services by other outside organizations in this company, how the billing system, how the bills are settled, and the wage records to the operators, and statutory obligations. If there are certain statutory obligations for certain employees, they are legally bound to do certain activities. So we had to study the labor regulations and what are these obligations. For example, according to the Office Shop and Office Act, then there are a number of implications are there, statutory regulations. Working time, how long at working time, how to pay the overtime, and then if the night shifts are working, what are the facilities to be given, ladies working, what are the facilities to be given. All these things are laid down in the Shop and Office Act and other laybacks. The processing problems, interruption in processing due to certain technical reasons, environmental reasons, or any other problems we can come across. Then any future prospects, any development can be there, any operation side can be how to improve. You may have can by looking at your outsider in your inspection. So looking how by outsider you may identify certain uh, operating method process can be changed. It will be increase the production and the productivity. You can suggest because inside people may not see. The person outside can see them. Points to remember: take down notes in the field visit during the visit. Take down notes and write a report immediately after return. You have to prepare a report, set a format. So I have given a sample format for that. I will come to that. So the pre-sanction inspection is very important from the branch manager's data officer point of view. I should give them inputs to help them decide whether to lend it or not. Before the granting facility inspection is important. A visit to the proponent's place of stay in the business is essential before the deciding on the credit proposal. That's what we have already discussed. I'm going to summarize that what we have discussed. Branch managers, credit officers should return from the pre-sanction inspection both places, residence as well as business, and if satisfied themselves will help them to further to objectively decide whether to lend the money or not. Pre-sanction inspection must before deciding on an advance. Without completing this aspect, the credit appraisal or advance should be made. So before granting the facility, having out inspection will be important. Now, objective of the pre-sanction inspection is to whether to lend or not, to decide whether to lend or not. So the same thing will be applied on when we come to monitoring and supervision. We'll be discussing the same thing will be applied to see whether what we lend is justifiable or not. Other way about. What are the things to be included in inspection report? Branch manager credit officers are required to prepare an inspection report for a pre and post sanction. Whenever you go for inspection, you have to prepare an inspection report. It should be wholesome but not too long. In short form, but it has to be complete. But then pre-sanction inspection report for new units will differ from the existing one. The new customer and the existing customer. Objective is different. Objective is different. Existing customer, you are making inspection. Objective is to give further facilities or to expand the facilities. New customer, whether to give or not, make the decision. Similarly, post-sanction inspection reports are hypothecated. Stocks will be different from the pledged stocks and also of hypothecated book dates. Right? Post-sanction stocks, I told earlier, what is different? Pledged stocks and the mortgage stocks. They are different. Again, post-sanction inspection for transport vehicle is a different for a true traveler or a boat or a ferry. Pre-sanction, post-sanction inspections, they diary, poultry, fishery, figure exercise, altogether different from that of crop loans and term loans. For pump sets, drug wells, farm machinery, and buildings. So depending on the business to business, inspection is different. So I given a model, small example or sample inspection report. You can follow this. It's a checklist type of one. The name, borrow the name. What is the business? First the report number, date of visit, location, office, address, telephone number, factory address, telephone number. Then loan account number, which branch you are going for, details, what type of a loan you are learning, what is security, the personal securities. Right? Along with that, you have to do your findings of the inspection. Findings of the inspection has to be listed out. Finally, you have to sign the inspection report and kept in the documentary file. Right? It has to be filed like file. It has to be followed by the next inspection. Sometimes you may be not there. Your successor has to carry out the inspection. So there should be a guideline for him to do the inspection. So what are your this is basically the front page. The other pages are what are your findings regarding the prepare a checklist. I gave you the details business to business differ. What are the items to be checked and what to your prepare checklist and what are your inspection, what are your findings. Right? Any negative things to be developed or negative things to be rectified, you may mention it and inform the customer that this has to be do. That is, this has to be rectified, this has to be verified, this has to be cleared before the next inspection. If you go for second inspection, third inspection, you may find the same error continuous happening. You have the option to cancel that facility if the customer not agree for the changes. It will ultimately affect the repayment of the loan. So inspections are very important to keep it up, and we have to go for inspection and verify the things what are given the list, what are you going to inspect, and checklist what items and what your findings, positive, negative both, and not only negative, and it's summary form you have to prepare and keep in the file. That file has to be can be verified for the next inspection. So thank you for that. Shall we have a break? Now we are going to discuss about the tools available for credit investigation, external and internal tools. More what you call technical tools. This credit scoring, credit rating are the technical tools can be used for the credit investigation. Practically, for large customers, we may be able to apply some of these techniques, but certain techniques are, of course, now will make mandatory. We'll discuss that. What are the latest development in this technical analysis and analytical tools? Technical analytical tools for credit investigation. First one is I'm going to discuss about the credit scoring. This is not a new thing. It's a very sometime back, long time before it came in. Credit scoring actually introduced by FICO, that is Fair Isaac and Company in the USA, is a system which predicts the future conduct of an account based on past performance of a similar account. So you take a similar account model of account and how the performance measure the performance in different conduct, what you call features, and future apply for the future conduct. How it can be conduct the future with a prediction. It's called credit scoring. How was the past and how could be the future? Using certain technical technique, right? Some techniques, application. Sometimes it can be manual, sometimes it can be technological approach. Especially the credit scoring comes with the technological approach. FICO introduced what are the components of this Fair Isaac company. Components they are scored, their payment history, amounts owed, that is what is amount borrowed at the percent outstanding, length of credit history, how long the customer has been borrowed and the history, the new credit, and types of credit used. What are the types of facilities used? Based on this five features, percentages are given like price. 35% of the weightage given for payment history, that is existing customer. how they pay the facility. 35% is given for that based on the payment is that is a regular payment, and payment whether irregular or not promised payments are not kept in time, full payment advance or settlement, part settlement, likewise history. Based on that, the 35% maximum given in the score. 30% for borrowings, quantum of borrowings, how much I borrowed. Larger the customer's borrowing, the value, the rate, what you call rating is increasing. Lower the amount borrowing, rating is reducing. Then the length of credit history has been got 15% allocated for credit history. That is how long the loan has been given. Short-term facility, medium-term facilities, or long-term facilities. Housing loans and other long-term facilities get higher score, where the temporary short-term working capital finance and you get a short term. So the new credit, what are going to apply future, that will 10% going by the new person, new credits. New credit, 10%. Then types of credit used, like a different type of credit. What is the credit package? Loans, overdrafts, letters of credit, letter of guarantees. Likewise, the types of facilities used. Secured or unsecured. More secured, get high marks. Unsecured or low the security, weak in securities, getting lower score. This is how the components of FICO have been proposed. Right. General, we'll go by one. So this again credited little different from the earlier one. It is the general payment history 35%. Payment history always given highest percentage. Accounts information, credit cards, current account, loan account. How the payment history. Credit card, on the due date here paid, partly payment, or not paid and make it maximum amount, utilized and frozen, current account operation, highest balance, lowest balance, we discussed it as well earlier. Based on that, give the scoring, and the loan account, operation of the loan account. Right? In the other public records like a judgment, court cases, liens, the customer having any negative reports about the customer, cases filed, and judgments are given, and any liens or set-offs are there, then 35% is allocated there. In the total obligations,
Baba,
out of
Ian
that,
tanggal nandudu.
30% is allocated for that.
උඩ නෑ එහෙනම් දොර වහලා නැහැ.
Credit history,
නම්බර් ෆෝන් එකක් නෑනේ මනුස්සයා.
credit history, 7-15%. That is the what type of a credit, how the credit has been used, how it has been dispersed, how it has been used, and duration of the credit, the duration of the period, the short term, medium term, or long term, and for 15%, and 15% total obligation. The new credit is a new credit, new application. The credit card, number of credit cards, loan accounts, that the both are the liability side, right? How much of credit cards and how much credit card is using in the loan accounts. Then 10% I given for types of borrowings, that is a product. Right? What type of product? Long-term facilities, capital borrowings, then medium-term borrowings, working capital borrowings, revolving facilities.
හොඳට තිබ්බව්ව කළුවක් යන
Or this is another way of another.
හර්ෂය your mic is on
another way of making credit scoring. The credit scoring means the essential lending factors that are weighted and scored by a computer program on a predetermined basis. Okay, so mostly the credit scorings are developed using the technology, computer. It's a program designed and the information fed into the computer, and computer will give you the scoring, right? Which means applying a numerical score to the various pieces of information garnered from the customer, getting got from the customer. Various information which will be fed into the system in a numerical score. Always, not always in a quantitative terms, not in a qualitative term. This is converted into numerical form or quantitative terms. This is an application of science which has no human judgmental input at the point of decision. Therefore, this credit scoring completely based on the technical analysis. No human judgment is input there. So this is one of the weaknesses in credit what do you call credit appraisal. The human judge is making a very important form. We discussed earlier this as what you call the common sense approach has to be there. You see, all the credit scoring sometimes in the advantage of when discuss, we can find out that the relevant scores have already been input to the computer program. What the maximum score should be given for certain application is already fed to the computer. So that is the system how it is operate. So for example, it is scoring based on the company. Company, this is we'll be discussing in there later. Credit analysis, the company, another technique used by the Western countries is the company. You can use instead of company, 5 sheets of analysis you can apply. Then sometime we may apply for business customers 5 pillars of analysis. Likewise. So C company character of the customer 100 points. That is creditworthiness, willingness to repayment, and ability to repayment, and the customer's past performance. Character of the customer 100 points. Then the amount, depending on the amount, larger amount, higher the points, lower the amounts, lower the points. Then the means mean how much facility is needed. And the repayment method, what are the repayment method? 100 points. Then purpose, what purpose customer asking facility? Housing, business, income generation, likewise, these are 100 points. Then, yes, amount, the repayment, that is repayment, how repayment monthly, annually, depend on that 100 points. Insurance, that is security, collateral, 100 points. So total 700 points. Out of that, when you give points to each and category, right? The decision will be coming out of 700. How many points can be done? So based on that, decisions have been applied. The benefits are it is a scientific approach. It's a scientific approach. The ISAC company has been developed this in a scientific background. Reduces transferring to non-performing. One of the benefit, if you analyze scores carefully, if I score segment carefully, it will reduce NPA levels of the transfer NPA. No human interferences because the entire thing has been developed based on the information fed into the computer about the customer details. And computer will identify the characteristics and give the marks. Those are the benefits. Then drawbacks are there are against this credit scoring method. There are a lot of arguments. One of the arguments is equal points given for all elements and no discrimination. Right? Yes, there are certain elements should be given more weightage. Certain elements should not give that much of a weightage. So here, all are equal. Therefore, sometimes the weaker elements may get higher points and stronger points may get lower points. Therefore, the decision may sometimes it may be negative. More important factors may have given lower score, while less important factors may have given high values. Now, for example, types of facilities. Repayment method are much higher important. Customers' credit history and the customer's character has have a great impact on the conduct of a facility. So that has been rejected in credit scoring. Scoring less than 280 may repay and prove creditworthy. Scoring less than 280 may repay and prove the creditworthiness of the customer. Common sense approach may neglect in this case. Right? So the credit scoring, when you consider, it is a technical analysis based on the computer. So when you information from the customer you feed into the system will automatically go through the each and every category of these facilities of the customer performances, like discussed earlier, and it will give certain points. It will automatically give the points, and finally give the points. If anything less than 280 is not considered, above 100, 280 only considered for facility. So disadvantages, for example, if a customer, for example, a monthly wage earner, sometimes he may, when you analyze his personal loan, if you analyze his temporary or whatever scoring methodology, he may get less than 280 points. Less than 280 points. If they say less than 280 points, according to the scoring valuation, decision made to reject that customer's application. May not consider for facility. But if you find that customer has a strong in the repayment ability, he's having a monthly income, salary, and the monthly salary is coming to the bank. So that is repayment ability is very high. So that point has been submerged or took it down by the other unimportant factors. So that is the disadvantage in this credit scoring system that we come across. Right. Then we will go for the next one is external credit rating methods. Right? External credit rating. And what is credit rating? Now this is commonly talking about this chapter, credit rating. Normally, small accounts we are not doing credit rating, but India, it's a compulsory to get a credit rating even for a small facility, small project. Right? But in Sri Lanka, it is very costly because credit rating companies are charging very high charges. Therefore, credit rating is not worthwhile unless otherwise it is a large corporate. Okay? It is assess the credit worthiness of an individual, corporation, or even a country. We have come across even countries where this rating is given. So for example, the Fitch rating has given the country as B minus, Sri Lanka. That means we are in the border red line. So certain categories which are given as a C. C means unable to service their facilities. That is the criteria. So it will assess the credit worthiness of individual person or a business or a country. Credit rating can be given. Calculated from financial history and current assets and liabilities. The credit rating is normally go through the financial statements, assets and liabilities and the P&L statement, and do a due diligence analysis. Credit rating normally done after doing a due diligence rating, compare for the last 5 years and look for the trend and analyze. So they predict what could be the future of the credit rating company. It tells a lender or investor the probability of the subject being able to pay back the loan. Depending on the historical information, historical performance of a business, whether the customer can perform in the future. Customer can repay his facilities in the future. And that will be discussed greatly in the credit rating system. The lender or investor, probability of subject being able to pay back the loan. Right? For credit rating. Why credit rating is necessary? Credit rating is an opinion expressed by an independent professional organization after making a detailed study of all relevant factors. The credit rating is an opinion expressed by an independent professional organization after making a detailed study of all relevant factors. The rating company is a professional organization. For example, Fitch, Standard and Poor, Duff and Phil. Those are internationally recognized rating agencies, rating companies. But they are professional in that term. They go through after a detailed study of all factors, internal the business factors, what's revealed from the financials, go due diligence on the financials, and also external factors, marketing factors, technical factors, then environmental factors, fiscal analysis. So after going through all the relevant factors, they'll give their opinion rating by given. Such an opinion will be great assistance to investors in making investment decision. Loan is an investment. Giving a credit facility is the lender's investment in the customer. So it will give an idea whether that borrower is worthwhile or the proposal is viable. So that support, give that decision to take that decision, the support is given by the credit rating. It also helps the issues of debt instrument to price their issues correctly and to reach out of new investors. Specifically large corporates, it is compulsory to get a rating. That means all companies which are registered at the Security Exchange, Security Exchange, and also and public companies, public limited liability companies, credit rating is compulsory under the Companies Act in Sri Lanka, even other countries. It's a compulsory credit rating for large corporates published in the Security Exchange, compulsory rating. So whenever they try to increase their capital or issue debt instrument like debentures, commercial papers, issue shares to the market, So depending on the rating, credit rating given by the rating agency, the instrument price can be decided correctly. If it's higher rating is given by the rating agencies, then the share prices and the debenture prices with the premium you can put into the market. It's a premium put into the market. And reach out of new to investor to invest in that company. So the new investors have a confidence on the rating agency and buy this instrument. Same thing will apply for banks also. Whenever a bank is trying to lend to the customer, if it's a large corporate or a small one even, if they get a good report about rating report, the bank can take decision on lending without any difficulty. So credit rating is a very valuable instrument for making credit decisions. Credit rating assesses creditworthiness of an individual, corporation, or even a country. Credit ratings are calculated for financial history and current assets and liabilities. The credit rating tells a lender or investor the probability of the subject being able to pay back the loan. So that decision is incorporated in the rating. A poor credit rating indicates high risk of defaulting on a loan and thus leads to a high interest rate. So that bank has to decide whether accepting this higher defaulting risk. Sometimes in the other countries, if there's a high defaulting risk, then they increase the interest rates and put other controls on lending for that type of a customer. Other conditions to mitigate the risk and to safeguard the default. So this is very common for us as to using these ratings. Credit is important since individuals and corporations with poor credit will have difficulty finding financing and will more likely to have to pay more due to risk of default. So we discussed a little while ago. In lending situations, credit rating, if the rating is good, that customer will consider as a good creditworthy customer. If the rating is poor, then we'll have finding in difficulty financing. That means no investor will come to invest in that business. Even banks lending may have to take big price. The ratings, the finding ratings were poor. The ratings are expressed in code numbers which can be easily comprehended by lay investors. So it's very easy. An investor that does not have to break their heads on finding the viability of the business, continuity of the business. By looking at the rating, the code numbers can be easily compared, take a decision. Credit rating exists in India, is done for a specific security and for a company as a whole. So in issuing security is in a situation, rating is always given. In Sri Lanka, we find whenever a company try to mobilize their funds, either issuing a IPO, shares, IPO, the company profile is given, evaluated by the rating agency, by the rating given. Higher the ratings, better the position. They can easily sell the product. But if the poor the rating, that will be on the way. So for example, 2 years back in 2020, one of the banks put shares to the market, share issue to the market, right? Because of the country's situation is weak and the banking sector is getting under threat because of that financial crisis situation, the shares were not met their what you call shares could not be sold. So the bank has to withdraw the share issue from the equity exchange. It's happening to 2020. I don't know, mentioned what the bank. Now look at even the central bank issue certain what do you call bonds. The last bond issue was only subprime 30% because the country's country's position has been rated by the rating agencies as from B to C has come down to C now. Therefore, countries have a higher risk on repayment of their loan facilities. So similar rating can be applied for our customers also. Same principle. If the customer's repayment ability is deteriorated, he may not get a good rating. If he not get a good rating, so lending to that sector, that business is high risk. Banks may withdraw their lending portfolio from that company. Credit rating does not create a fiduciary relationship between the agency and the users. They are one of the important factors. The rating agencies are very independent. Rating agencies are independent, not biased. Not fraudulent relationship is maintained. Fiduciary relationship is not there. That means nobody can influence the companies which award a rating cannot influence the rating agencies. So they give the independent ratings. What are these rating? Then what is a rating agency? So these companies which are doing rating are called rating agencies, CRA. Company that assigns credit rating for issuers of certain type of debt obligation as well as the debt instrument themselves. So a company debt borrowing from a bank or issue debt instrument, that is shares, debentures, commercial papers to the market, the rating agency will give a position of the business rating. Even we grant a facility, large facilities for a big customers, we'll ask the customer to get the rating from the rating agency. Although it is compulsory under the banking Companies Act, banks can specifically ask for the ratings. Also, it is an agency that performs the rating of debt instrument. The credit rating is always perform the rating of this instrument. Instrument also they are rating. The companies, the instruments. CRA uh, not very specific. At present, is not only limited to the rating of debts, but they are also undertaking financial analysis, assessment of financial product, individual institutions, and the government. So, credit rating agencies' scope at present is not only limited to rating debt, but they also undertaking financial analysis. That's called financial due diligences, assessment of financial products, loans, overdrafts, and what are the other products? Debentures, shares, all are financial products. For individuals, institutions, as well as the government. So it's have a widely accepted authority for the CRAs. The rating methodologies are different. What business analysis means covers an analysis of industry risk, market position of the country, operating efficiency of the company, and the legal position. Rating given on the business analysis, the rating agencies can be given their ratings on different categories. Methodology. So business analyst means the industry risk. And the industry risk means the market, competitors, so on and so forth. Product position. In the market position, what the market share, what the market, what do you call, market share of the company, market share of the product, the market formation, position of the market near the competitors. That will be market position in the country. It will take country as a whole. What is the market position? Then operating efficiency of the company. How best the company doing operations. That all the ratios will be taken into consideration. Cost ratios, efficiency ratios, and the profitability ratios will be analyzed carefully for over a period of time, and rating agency will give the rating and the legal position. What is the legal position of the business? And we continue with the legal position. That is the business analysis. Then the final analysis consists of analysis of accounting quality, earnings protection, cash flow adequacy, and financial flexibility. What takes in the financial flexibility in a business as one of the vital information needed by a banker. What takes a customer can change. They are flexible in their financials. That means if you have one ratio is negative, how to improve the other ratios to overcome that situation. That's called financial flexibility. And the cash flow adequacy is very important. We'll discuss in details about the cash flow in the future. Cash flow is the mode of repayment. Cash flow means cash inflow minus cash flow outflow. So the capital cash flow is any surplus in the cash flow, whether it's adequate to service their day-to-day operations as well as the future requirements and the loans. The financing will be cash flow position. The management evaluation consists of study of track record of the management, its capacity to overcome adverse situations, goals and philosophy strategies. To what extent this is the management evaluation is a qualitative analysis. Management analysis is a qualitative analysis. That is the management capacity to how they face in adverse situations. What are their goals and philosophies and strategies? Whether it is can be successfully achievable. The goals are there, whether it is achievable. What are the requirements to management to do to the philosophy develop, strategies to develop to achieve these goals? That will be discussed in the management evaluation by the rating agencies. The fundamental analysis we call of as a liquidity management, asset quality profitability, interest and tax sensitivity. Liquidity management, how best liquidity managed? This is not only assets and liabilities, current assets and current liabilities, even the cash flow. The asset quality, when the assets are generating earning profits, ROA, return on asset, profitable. The interest and tax sensitivity, whenever interest rates and taxes are implied, how best the business can absorb this thing. So these are the main areas in a rating company will be applied for. Information is collected and then analyzed by a team of professionals in an agency. The information about the customer, for example, if a customer wants to exit a company, or they want to issue certain, they want to raise their funds, funds. So they can either, if your financial market is steady and viable, they can introduce a instrument to the market to get the external people, external what you call investors to invest in their company. Or if the market is not viable, then they have to divert to the bank. So for which the due diligence report gives they collect all the information as mentioned earlier and analyze team of professional what the relationship between each and every factor. If necessary, meetings with the top management, suppliers, dealers, and a visit to the plant or proposed sites are arranged to collect additional data. So this team, rating agencies team, they made when they want to give a rating, first they meeting with the top management people and they discuss about the company's performance level, production levels, and productivity levels, the suppliers and dealers, right, whom they are dealing with, suppliers, what is the opinion of the suppliers about this company? They are satisfied with the company about their what do you call performance with their suppliers and the creditors, payment of credit, and dealers to, who are the dealer of this company. In the transaction, if a company is a wholesale dealer, and who are the below dealers distribute their product. If it's necessary, this credit team, credit investigating this team, will visit to the plant or the proposed sites to collect additional data, first-hand information. This team professionals submit their recommendation to rating committee. So the procedure is the rating committee, given the details, they are not giving the rating, they give their findings, their proposals and recommendations to the rating committee. Then the rating committee of the company will discuss this report in detail and assigns the rating. Now here we have to understand that when the rating is assigned by a rating agency, it's something called statutory. They are statutory. They bound for the information. They are responsible. If any company invests in that company using these ratings, right, and it goes bad, they can sue the rating company giving an incorrect picture of the company. That's a risk. So rating agencies are taking high responsibility on assigning a rating. Rating assigned is then notified to the issuer and only on this accepted ratings published. When these rates are given to the relevant company, first they go through. After accepting, only rates are published by the company. Assures confidentiality of information. Rating agency always keep confidentiality of the information, source of information, as well as collection. After giving a rating, if anybody asks from the rating agency to give information about certain factors, they are not bound to give this information. They have to maintain the confidentiality. Once the issuer decides to use and publish a rating, the agency has to continuously monitor it for the entire life of an instrument for surveillance. That is, rating agencies not only issuing rating, they have, after issuing, monitoring and supervision they do. Monitoring and supervision they do till the lifetime of the instrument. That instrument will be paid, the instrument is paid. So this continuously used. What are the rating symbols? What are the rating symbols? This is very common for us. AAA and AA highest safety, high investment grades, A, triple A, and double A, highest safety. And if a rating company has given triple A or double A, that indicate that company is highest safety for finance. Safety is highest. The single A, the company is adequate safe. Company is adequate safe. That means you can go ahead with the investment or lending and take additional precautions because there are slightly differences in what do you call risk. Risk slightly risk is there. That's why given single A. Then triple B is the B category, highest given as triple B. So moderate safety. Triple B is the moderate safety, and again risk is increasing greater than A. That's why I get triple B. So when it's triple B, can be considered for a facility, but to take certain precaution action or take about the risk. Then speculative grades are double B. That's double B is not considered as safety, inadequate. So when it's double B, sometimes the rating agency may propose certain what do you call risk mitigating instruments, risk mitigating factors. If that company is trying to accept and apply, may be considered. The BBR low like that 50-50 chances. And the B is high risk, B and below high risk, C is substantial risk, and D is default. Risk is very high. Normally below B, triple B, banks are not accepting for giving credit facilities for the businesses. Therefore, almost all the businesses, large corporates specifically, try to get this highest investment grades. Triple B, A, double A, or triple A. The triple A is the highest performance. Is all about 98% safety. Double A is 95% safety. And 95% safety is the A. Likewise, the ratings has been specified in their ratings report. Then comes to credit rating. Monitor the issues already rated. Monitoring after giving the rating, how to do the monitoring. The rating is an opinion given on the basis of information available at a particular point of time. So therefore, you have to keep in mind, understand that the rating is given at a given a point of time. It is not for a period. The position of the business at a particular point of time. As at this stage, is the board. It may get changed. It may change, either positively or negatively. Last year, back Sri Lanka was given level B rating. This year, Canada pushed them down to C. And so it will be had to monitor. After giving a rating, if for example given a double A or triple A, we had to we cannot take it to grant that the company is safe. At any moment, the positions can be changed. So therefore, the rating is given at a particular point of time. as time goes by, many things change, affecting the debt servicing capabilities of the issuer. Now, for example, 2 years, 3 years back, the banks, Sri Lankan banks are given double A and some banks are given triple A because they are highly safe. When the country situation is affected, becoming B and double B and C, the rating agencies put down the ratings of the banks also because the country is in a risk. So it can be changed over the period. It can change. When the banks are doing well, but the country's situation is bad, it will go back. Take into consideration today's context, the pandemic situation. You never expected a company to close down their business and run at a loss. So, debt servicing capabilities are maybe changed. It is essential that as a part of their investor service, rating agencies monitor all outstanding debt issues rated by them. So normally, if a rating agency given a rating to a company, they monitor continuously about their ratings. So any changes, they update their rating. Credit rating establishes a link between risk and return. Right? Purpose of credit rating is given establish a link between risk and return. What is the risk? From where the risk is coming in? And how much the risk? Right? The normally, higher the risk, higher the return. Lower the risk, lower the return. That's a principle in lending. So if the risk is high, and the return also should be high. Compensate the risk. They provide a yardstick against which to measure the risk inherited in the instrument. So when it comes to issuing an instrument or lending instrument, for a customer's point of view, it's a measurement yardstick. How to measure the risk? Always, risk has to be measurable. Risk has to be measurable. In other words, it should be in a qualitative term. And it should be a quantitative term, not on the qualitative term. That can be measured by figures, arithmetical figures. Then only you can compare for a period of time. So the measuring devices developed by the rating agencies, where the risk is inherited in the instrument. There's no product without any risk. And no financial product without any risk. An investor uses the ratings to assess the risk level. The investor uses the ratings to assess the risk level and compares the offered rate of return, which is expected rate of return. So, whenever lenders or investors look at the rating and assess the risk level and see what is the return. The return is sufficient to cover the risk, then they invest. If the return is not sufficient for the risk, they may not invest. So that's the importance of this credit rating. What are the limitations in this credit rating? Institutions whose instruments were given highest rating didn't perform well. Sometimes you may find in the past, performers are very, very good, therefore given high rating. But the future performance not as expected. It can happen. Past is the best. Best performance are given in the past. But what is the future? So if you look at the industry life cycles, you can come across this. No industry has been continued for a long period. Although they have come to peak level, highest level, and they are declines. So we'll discuss that business cycles later. As bankers, we should know all these things. All these factors are affecting our credit history. Frequent revision of rating creates confusion, questioning credibility of the expertise of the rating agencies. Now, for example, if a rating agency is given A rating for a business, but ongoing monitoring quarterly, they change the rating. Right? So it may go against the rating agency also. Credibility of the expertise of the rating agency. Whether the rating agency is expertise in that field of the business. Something you may find certain due diligence reports you can look at. Think that expertism is not shown in the based on the business. No audit only rely on the information provided by the issuer, which may be inaccurate and incomplete. Right? So when the ratings are given, there's no audit carried out on the ratings. No. Information by issuer it may be accurate or incomplete. Not accurate and incomplete. Biasing investors lose their investment. Investors biased on the business, biased means they think that their ratings are okay, or just give the rating companies are not completely accurate, taking the frozen pictures painted by the company, investors may go down. Rating agents often fail to correctly predict the borrower financial the short term. This is one of the difficulties having with rating agencies, rating companies. Short term financial cannot be predicted clearly. Short term may change, but long term can guess something. Over a period of time, can come to settlement. But over a short term, it may fluctuate. So for example, rating is given a rating about the income pattern of business. When it comes off season, that business financial is negative, can be deteriorated. But on the on season, it may increase. So that has to be carefully understood. Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay. So now we discussed two items. One is credit score, completely technology-based external factors. Second one, external factor, external rating agencies getting information based on the ratings given by the rating agencies. I told you, normally we are not calling rating reports for small customers or medium-sized customers because the rating agencies are charging very high amount to give a due diligence report and rating. So normally it is applied for the large loans. Right? Now, next is the latest development about credit score. The latest development in the credit score, that is the CRIB individual credit score. That is the CRIB in Sri Lanka Credit Information Bureau has developed certain product doing credit score. Let's see what is this credit score developed by the CRIB. It's called CRIB Individual Credit Score. Sri Lanka Credit Information Bureau, Sri Lanka CRIB, is set to introduce new program called CRIB Score. In the middle of this week, that is August 2019, okay? This was established in 2019, middle of this week, to scientifically measure a person's debt repayment capacity and his credit risk according to a globally accepted methodology. Now the crib has undertaken to measure individual person repayment ability and the risk, his credit risk, according to the global accepted methodology, The Bureau plans to release credit scores to bank citizens from August 2019. So already that started. How many of you are aware of this? How many of you are aware of this? 2019, this has been rolled out. All the bank citizens, that means all bank customers, right? Without any rank. Personal customers, business customers, highly valuable customers, all the customers. This rating as PIB is trying to give a rating to all the customers. The new application certainly uplift the country to next level as far as credit evaluation myths are concerned. The credit evaluation techniques are concerned. CRIP is giving the biggest support for us to make credit decision. So it starts as external factors used to make credit decision. The undertaken that job. The facility will be further extended to all citizens by end of 2020. So practically now already, I think, is in implementation. 2021 is started to all the citizens, not only bank citizens, all the countrymen. Okay, right. So let's see what is this score. Individual credit score system. The new score developed by Credinfo is the company's name. By the Credinfo provides lending institutions with a consistent indication of the risk level, creditworthiness, and probability of default for particular borrower. The three areas covered in this report. What is that? Risk level, indication of risk level, creditworthiness of the customer, and probability of default. Most important three factors about a borrower, potential borrower. Right? So this is the scope. The Bureau believes that due to its low cost and high informational value, credit scores will be used more widely in the economy, as for instance, in assessing potential tenants. Now, if it's applied for all citizens, the person want to give you a house on rent, you can evaluate tenants' creditworthiness using this individual credit score. So it is expanded not only for the business, financial sector, beyond that. Any person want to have a transaction with somebody about debt transaction, you can get a individual credit score about that person before you lend. So this will be very, very big jump in our debt service in scenario. Not only banking sector, not only financial sector, even the private individually can use this information for their transactions. CRIP is implementing new system this year will collect telecommunication bill data, utility bill data, insurance payment data, and other information to improve scoring process. කොහොමද වැඩි? bill වල වෙලාවට ගෙවුවේ නැත්නම්, utility bill ගෙවුවේ නැත්නම්, insurance payment ගෙවුවේ නැත්නම්, that information also goes to CRIP. Customer කෙනෙක්ගේ personal transaction power going to the CRIP. They collect the information, telecommunication bill data with the customer paying the bills on due date. Any default, if any customer default on the bill, ඒ SIM මාරු කරේ යන්න බෑ ඊට පස්සේ හරිද? Most of the customers they thought this they change the SIM. You can hide the things now. It is reflecting in the web. Utility bill data, electricity, water, telecom bills, insurance payment. Uh, or information are incorporated in that. So it is going to be a very broad analysis. So let's see how these ratings are given by the CRIP. Individuals and businesses will receive between 250 and 900 marks under the new program. 250 to 900 marks, which measure debt repayment viability and credit risk. Which measures the debt repayment viability and credit risk. According to those scores, 6 classification will be made as A, B, C, D, and X. Under A rating, a person with an A score has very low risk in repaying loan. If a customer prospective borrower get A rating, when a person get A rating, but his risk is very low according to this classification. B is less risky, C is average risk, D is at high risk, and E is extremely high risk. Then another indicator is given in the CRIP report is X. It's considered as insufficient information. If your rating informations are not sufficient. Now this is practically like CRIP report for any credit facility. We have to obtain from the CRIP giving the NIC number. With the NIC number, you can get this information. Under the circumstances, all lending institutions will have to redefine their credit dispersing calculation and approaches. Under the circumstances, all lending institutions will have to redefine their credit dispersing calculation and approaches. Now we have to redecide according to the need of the credit scoring scheme. It makes the duties of the credit managers and officers easier. The duties of credit managers become easier, but also challenging in a different way. Understood? Your credit decision making is making easy. Well, more the scoring will you can depend on the scoring. Because they have a wider range, not only the past performance and other things. Even though their bill payment, personal liability is also taken into consideration, but challenging in a different way. Getting the score and taking a decision is difficult. Decision is always that is human. Common sense has to be used. This is the difficult part. The credit scores are calculated using process which ranges from 150 to 900. When the probability of default is high, the score is low, and when it's low, the score is high. In layman's terms, if you pay your dues on time, you get a higher credit score. If you don't pay your dues on time, you get a lower credit score. When the score is high, you are on the better footing to attract decent rate of interest from lending institutions. So it is expecting to link the interest rate to the rating. So there can be a base rate, like when we were using this AWLR, like as a base rate, and plus based on the risk. Okay. So that will be the next step we have to do it with the banks. On the face of it, picture looks very rosy. There are approximately 33 banks and 48 finance companies in Sri Lanka with a workforce of 88,000. As mentioned earlier, all managers and officers who deal in credit in these financial institutions have a challenging task ahead. ඉදිරියේ resources ලගේ task එක challenge. Excuse me. They would certainly be asked to consider reasonable weightage to solvency of their customers during the credit evaluation process based on the individual credit score allocated by credit. The challenge starts there. What is the challenge? Certainly be asked to consider reasonable weightage to the solvency of their customers. Customer solvency පිළිබඳව problem එකක් start වෙනවා. If the rating is low, right? Therefore, you have the challenge. Ask that. Satisfy the customer. That's the problem. So, the future credit officers' role is going to change. You are the first batch going to face this challenges. Understand? Right, the credit also expect the credit scores to influence the decisions of the financial institute in offering attractive rates for credit for the customers. You know, so a customer සමයකට සමාන සේවයක් බෑ. Depending on the creditworthiness of the customer, you have to offer the ratings. Creditworthy customer, lower rating, risk customers, high rating. So the policy of the banks has to change in the pricing policy. Product pricing policy has to change. They could demand low interest rate for credit based on their prospective credit score. Customer can demand, if you have a A rating, for example, you got an A rating, customer can demand for a lower interest rate. This is the risk, the challenge we have to face in the future. Okay, so this is I can't say the latest. It is introduced in 2019 for banking customers. The entire country, all the citizens from 2020 December. So now, according to the, I don't know what extent has been rolled out, by now it covers entire island. All the entire generation is covered by that. Adult generation. Any person becoming over 18, getting an identity card, their names are registered in the clip. Okay. So now get ready to face the challenge. Okay. Right. Let us discuss the other pattern. Now we have to discuss the external rating system. Credit score, external rating agencies, and CRIB. Those are external rating system. Now we consider what is internal credit risk rating systems. Because CRRS, ICRR system. This was actually we were doing long time before. Practically we were doing. We were just assigning a rate based on our based on our judgment on the customer. 5 to 1 rating. 5 is the highest, 1 is the lowest. So most cases we have given 3 average. All the customers are mostly average. So that's the high customer. What is the ICRR system? Internal credit risk rating system refers to system to analyze borrower's repayment ability based on information about customers' financial condition, including liquidity, cash flow, profitability, debt profile, market indicators, industry, and operational background management capabilities. Now we have to consider what are factors: financial condition with liquidity, cash flow, profitability, debt profile, market indicators, industry, operational background, management capability. There are 8 parameters. 8 parameters given introduced under this internal credit risk rating system. So you have to give a rating to each and every category by your own, 5 to 1. 5 is the highest good condition, 1 is the lowest condition, based on the customer's performance. Frequency of credit risk scoring is ICRR shall be conducted for all credit proposals, including renewal or enhancement of existing proposal. It is suggested to do this internal rating system to all facilities. Normally, even for personal loans, we have to apply this ICRR rating system. For existing credit relationship, the ICRR shall be reviewed at least annually at the time of annual regular credit review. So it has to be reviewed annually. It's taken first, normally it has to be reviewed annually. To provide granular, objective, transparent, and consistent framework for the measurement of assessment of customers' credit. The usage of this internal credit rating is the right object, transparent, and consistent framework for the measurement and assessment of customers' credit risk. Consistent assessment, continuous assessment of and consistent, same and continuous measurement assessing the customer credit risk. Number 2, to facilitate the portfolio management activities. That is the type of facilities, portfolio. Internet system can be used, right? If there's any portfolio, if you find high risk, bank can stop lending to that portfolio. So internet risk will give a position on that. If you see that bank is going ahead with particular bank, going the portfolio is going better, you can stop it. Even if management can apply for an individual branch. Now, for example, if one branch, right, they are granting facilities, unsecured facilities, portfolio is increasing. So the management can stop lending to that portfolio, looking at the risk rating. Risk rating is whatever, high risk, can stop lending. Facilities, no more to do, and try to recover whatever you are granted. This happened, this is practically applied in the banks earlier also. The management can take a decision to stop that. Similarly, if an entire loan portfolio, right, of a country is getting negative part, bank can take a decision that we are not lending to that sector or limited to lending that sector. Okay, depending on the risk system. For example, I can give you sometime back, this is about happened 2008. In 2008, the government decided to grant facilities to state employees, housing loans, and vehicle loans, long-term facilities. and which was given to the Bank of Sri Lanka, People's Bank and National Savings Bank. This project is given only to these three state banks by the government. So the bank accepted, because the government bank, no? State banks, they had accepted. But they decided we can accommodate only this much. Portfolios, this much. So Bank of Sri Lanka 8 billion portfolio, People's Bank 8 billion, NSP 6 billion. The entire portfolio for that particular segment, that is state employees, long-term loans, is maximum 8 billion, not beyond that. Because that is the amount can be managed. If going more than that, the bank may collapse. So the bank has to take decision on the risk rating on that. They are practically applied. To assess the quality of individual borrower, to help the banks to determine the quality of the credit portfolio, line of business, the branch show the bank as a whole. Sort of we discussed. Individual bank, quality of the credit portfolio. Right? Now, there are certain another incident I can give you sometime back happened. It is happening in 2013. 2013, what happened to our industry? Gold prices were collapsed. When gold prices were collapsed, what product of our banks had faced severe difficulties was the pawning business. Was affected pawning business. Why? The pawning business, the borrowers did not come to redeem their pawning articles. Why? It is cheaper to buy from the market, price is lower, they are redeeming the existing loans. So our NPA level has increased in that particular portfolio in 2013. Since it was at that particularly, it was a highly profitable business, most of the lenders, banks as well as the lending institutions, were lending without any ceiling limit. So now banks has to bring a ceiling limit to this, because one of the banks during that time, it's a commercial bank, private bank, had lent 42% of their portfolio in pawning business. When the pawning portfolio collapsed, virtually that bank were facing of bankrupt and liquidating. If not, central bank came forward and granted a credit line of 600 million, bank would have been collapsed. And not only that bank, entire bank industry would have been collapsed by that time. So this is the risk we are facing. So the maintaining the portfolio, individual branch as well as entire bank is very important. We use for individual credit selection, credit pricing, setting credit limit, and terms and conditions. So we can use. That's what I mentioned. Select what section you have to invest more. So for example, before 2009, lending to agriculture sector was less than 5%. Entire portfolio, entire bank portfolio. This is central bank report. What is central bank report? Before 2009, lending to agriculture sector was less than 5%. But this is a government private sector. In 2010, the government made compulsory to lend 10% at least. Right? Set a limit. So all the banks have to follow that. In 2018 budget, it has been established further that 10% of the portfolio has to be given to them. So the portfolio managing, controlling, depending on the risk, bank has to use the risk. So what are the internal rating system functions? ICRS system, a fully automated system that calibrate characteristics of different sector and industries in one single model. This is in Sri Lanka. We have, I don't know which bank is applied in the automated system. I have not come across any, but it's in the other countries it applies this. If the borrower is multiple lines of business, the sector should be used for assessing the line of business generating the highest portion of the revenue and no profit. Right? So customer having group of companies having different businesses. So the IR system has to establish depending on the highest profit generating segment. If there's no particular line of business can be signaled out, the ICRS should be conducted using other industry, if manufacturing or other service or if service. So it is using the system can be developed a model in the automated system for the ICRS system, which will be helpful as to give a rating, Swiss rating to our customers. Okay, that's internal rate of system banking. Now it comes to the internal rating based on IRB approach. This is actually one of the proposals given in the Basel III guidelines. Basel III guidelines on the Basel regulations, the banks are allowed to work out their own risk rating system. That's for internal rating based approach. IRB approach is called IRB approach. This is different from the internal ICRR system, right? ICR system is independently banks are doing. Right? IRB approaches, this is based on the what you call Basel III guidelines. Okay, so there are different similar name but different approaches. Right now, Basel III allows the banks to use their own internal rating system. The internal rating based approach to credit risk allows banks to model their own inputs for calculating risk-weighted assets, from credit exposure to retail, corporate, financial institutions, and sovereign borrowers, subject to supervisory approval. Subject to supervisory approval. How the supervisor? Approval of the central bank. Under Basel, the supervisory regulatory authority is the central bank. Under central bank approval, you can prepare your own risk rating system. Under foundation, IRB, banks model only the probability of default. Probability of default. Okay. That is, what are the facilities going to be defaulted? Under the advanced IRB approach, banks can also model their own loss given default and exposure default and default levels. What are these two items? What is only probability of default and loss given default? Can you give an example? Any facility can be converted, turned into a default. That's called probability of default. Loss given default is what we already converted or transferred to default section. So, in basically, to understand this, right? Probability of default is where the facilities are arrears 1 to 89 days. It has not been transferred to NPA. Loss given default is after transferring the NPA, after 90 days. Okay. Exposure default level. Right? So what are the other one is EAD levels. This is what are terms of the terminology of the Basel, right? Exposure default level means there are certain facilities are in the boundary, may cross to default. That exposure is high. Okay. So more than 2 months arrears, our exposure is high as default. Okay. Right. LGD, that is loss given default, is the absolute amount of money lost if a borrower default. Right? How much going to come? EAD is amount bank is exposed at the time of the same default. Right? LEGD is the money lost if the borrower default, while LED is the amount bank exposed at the time. That's it, along with the interest. Okay. Exposed amount is the interest. Absolute amount is the capital loss. Right? Credit risk rating scores are ICR's concept for notch rating system covering the quantitative and qualitative parameters. Excellent aggregate score of 80 or greater in ICRR. Right? So it is linked with the ICRR. Aggregate scores of 680 or greater is called excellent for A rating. Strong repayment capacity of the borrower evident by high liquidity, low leverage, strong earnings and cash flow. Borrower has well established strong market share, very good management skill expertise. If you're having risk rating given is excellent. Under this rating system. So, for which I have downloaded some qualitative indicators, how the ratings are given. Debt to tangible net worth. Debt divided by tangible net worth. Total definition is given weightage is 7. Leverage is 10%. Out of the 7% is to debt to tangible net worth, and debt to total assets is 3%. Altogether 10%. So definition is total interest-bearing liabilities of financial debt divided by total tangible net worth. In other words, capital. Capital, interest-bearing liabilities divided by capital is called debt to tangible net worth ratio is 7. Then total interest-bearing liabilities of financial debt, average total assets. Right? Total interest-bearing liabilities, total asset, what's the percentage? That's called leverage. 10% indicators given. So depending on the amount, what is the percentage? Better the percentage, higher the leverage, lower the percentage, higher the leverage. In the liquidity ratios, current ratio, current assets over current liability, 7 points. Cash ratio, cash and easily marketable securities divided by current liabilities is 3 total. So if the cash balance is not there, when the overdrawn, then this ratio liquidity is less. Then the profitable ratio, net profit margin, net profit after tax divided by sales, return on asset ROA, total asset after net profit after tax, then operating profit average operating assets is 10%. Right. Then the other assets side, there are some more qualitative data. This is the basic things I have given to understand how the rating side can be marked. This is one of the suggestions. Interest coverage, interest before interest and divided by tax interest expenses, 3 marks, 3 points, percentage. Debt service cover ratio, earnings before interest and depreciation, and debt to be service, that's called debt service coverage, that's got 5%. And the financial debt to operating cash flow, 4%. Cash flow coverage ratio is 3%. So this is one of the suggestions. One of the suggestions for indicators how to work out this rating scores. In the second score comes to operational efficiency. Stock turnover ratio 10%. Total inventory divided by cost of goods sold into 360 days. Trade data collection days, account receivable divided by sales into 360 days. Asset turnover ratio, sales divided by total assets, that will be 10% of your operational efficiency. Then the earning quality, operating cash flow to sales, cash flow to base actual interest rate. So how to work out is given there. So those are some of the indicators of how to work out. The second caliber is aggregate score 70 or greater but less than 80. That means 70 to 80. One quantitative score of at least 30. If you go to the recording, there are 70 marks for the quantitative and qualitative 30 marks. So out of 70, 30 marks should be therefore considered as good. The borrowers are not strong as excellent borrowers, but still demonstrate consistent earnings, cash flow, and have a good track record. Borrower is well established and has strong market value, very good management skill and expertise. Is good is only problem is here is their quantitative and ratings has come down. Then the marginal customers, aggregate score 60 and less than 70. The grade is potential weakness that deserve management close attention. If left uncorrected, these weaknesses may result in the deterioration of the repayment prospect of the borrower. So marginal customers, we have to pay much attention when their ratings are less than of 60, between 60 and 70. They are marginal customers. So any moment they may fall in trouble. Unacceptable customer aggregate score less than 60. The financial condition is weak and no capacity of inclination to repay. Severe management problem exists. Facilities should be downgraded to this grade if the sustained deterioration of financial condition is noted. Consecutive losses, negative net worth, excessive leverage. This rating is unacceptable. So you may not consider for presenting this type of customer. Right? Under the Basel II guidelines, banks are allowed to use their own estimated risk parameter for purpose of calculating regulatory capital. This is known as internal rating-based approach to capital requirement for credit risk. This is what we were discussing under Basel II guidelines. Right? So internal rating model based on the approach of credit risk allows banks to model their own inputs for calculating risk-weighted assets from credit exposures to retail, corporate, finance institutions covering borrowers, subject to supervised approval under the foundation of IRB banks model only probability of default. Right? So what is the model under IRB internal rating model? Probability of default. Right. Let's compare what is different between external rating and internal rating. External credit ratings are used to increase the market transparency and decrease information asymmetries between issuers and potential investors. In the case of internal credit rating, financial institutions are rated the issuer in order to decide whether to grant a loan or not, under which or not, under what conditions. So how to use this external rating system and internal rating system. There are three external rating systems we discussed: credit score, then external rating agencies, the CRIB. Internal ratings, there are two discussed with that: internal rating system internally and the Basel II credit rating approach. Okay. It is mandated to obtain external credit report in India. It's not Sri Lanka, right? As far as public issue of debt is concerned, regulation by the Securities and Exchange Board of India and Reserve Bank of India makes it mandatory for the issuers to obtain a credit rating. Banks may, at their discretion, require borrowers to obtain credit ratings. This is Indian scenario. What is Sri Lanka scenario? Same thing. As far as public issue of debt is concerned, exchange, security exchange, and the Companies Act is a mandatory to get accelerated report. So banks may use the discussion requirement borrowers to obtain their ratings. Okay, so that's all about external instrument of credit rating. Thank you. Okay, any questions?
Thank you, sir.
Clarifications?
Sir, will you be touching more on risk-weighted assets later on?
Sorry?
Will you be giving us more details on risk-weighted assets later on?
Risk-weighted asset mean assets. What are assets? Fixed assets as well as current assets. In the banking assets, what are current assets? There's a loans, right? All the credit facilities granted appearing in the balance sheet under current assets. Then on the fixed asset, also we have certain risk-weighted assets. That is land and buildings absorbed, taken over by the banks, either under which is under mortgage, which is not generating any income. So these are risk-based assets. Risk-weighted asset mean minus the collateral available. According to Basel regulations, the risk-weighted assets are loan outstanding balance minus realizable value of securities. That's called risk-weighted assets. Okay? According to Basel regulations, risk-weighted assets mean credit outstanding minus realizable value of securities. That's called risk-weighted assets.